The Baskerville family's hound, named Van Baskerville, was the most loyal hound to his family and his father, but was betrayed and framed by them for connecting with the demon clan, and was killed by them. Before his execution, he decided if he ever get to live again, he will get his revenge. After that, he opened his eyes and doesn't understand where he is, but his body feels heavy. He thinks he is in hell, as in the Grand Estate odd Baskerville family. All the children are gathered into their beds, and all of them are crying. Then this man named Patriarch Hugo Lev from Baskerville family comes in, as he walks around the children and says that there aren't any special kids here, and there is only trash are gathered here. Then he sees Van, and says this one is quieter than the other kids. He tells his workers to move the children to the Cradle of Swords. Van knows that the main culprit for his framing and execution in his previous life was this man, Hugo Le. He is certain now that he has lapsed back to when he was a baby, as in his previous life he lived as a hound, who was born in an illegitimate family and received really hard training in a poor environment. As hounds devote their lives to the missions, they take care of all kinds of dirty work, and everything is done to make Baskerville the best of the 7 families. He was loyal to his family to get acknowledged by them and also from Hugo. 10 years ago, when the demonic realm was opened, the fight between humans and demons was won by humans, and the reward given to the loyal hound was that they were taken down. The only reason he was executed was that the hound knew too much. He will never live like that again. He wants to take his revenge but can't do anything with his newborn baby's body. As he needs to get stronger to get his revenge, getting moved to the Cradle of Swords will be a good opportunity for him to get stronger. Cradle of Sword is a place where the children born into the Baskerville family have to go through this trail. The children get thrown into a maze of swords, and after going through that, they go to the Styx River, where they get examined for their talent. This Styx River is a legendary river that turns the bodies of children into iron, but there is a limit to how much it can affect the children. This is how they know their talent. For them to get to the river, they need to go through the wall of blades. Van comes out of them, as he thinks in his previous life he and his sibling couldn't receive this effect, but this time he will get it done. Then he jumps into the river and tries to stay there as long as possible, as the water is getting into his body through his cuts. He then says he has to endure this as long as possible. Outside, everyone is surprised to see this, and they think he will die if he stays underwater any longer. They need to get him out. Hugo is loving this. He asked his butler how much time has passed since he got in the river. He says 7 minutes. Hugo thinks he might die and asks him to get out. Van goes that he will not come out this easily as he needs to absorb as much as he can till the end. But he couldn't hold any longer as he was going to drown. But Hugo pulls him out and says, "Look at this kid." Hugo asks for the name of this child, and his butler tells him it's Van Baskerville. Hugo gets excited as he thinks a greedy son for power has been born. Van says, "Enjoy this time, Hugo, as much as you can." Van needs to grow stronger and sharpen his skills silently, and when the time comes, he will kill his masters and the Baskerville family will vanish in history at his hands. Van was Hugo's illegitimate son. At the age of 8 years old, he was really talented, and everyone called him a genius, but he was ordinary in his family. At 20 years old, he took on missions like assassinations and conquests. At 29 years of age, he felt he had reached his limit in swordsmanship compared to the direct lineage. At 30 years old, the gate of the demonic realm opens and the demon invasion begins. At 35, he suffers through the era of destruction and bloodshed of monsters left and right. At 39, the war ends and humans win. And at 40, for his loyalty, he is rewarded with defamation and false accusations and killed him. Van wakes up and finds himself in a nursery, which means he has successfully absorbed the Styx River. He starts to crawl out of his bed, and then a lady comes in with a box saying why Madam wants to give this present and puts it on his bed. In the box there are 2 deadly mambas. Van thinks someone sent these snakes to assassinate him. As there are only a few people who are called madams, they must have wanted to reduce the competition. The mambas attack him, but Van grabs them with both hands and says he will bring down this entire Baskerville family with these 2 hands and kill these snakes. The next day, workers are shocked to see that, as they see Van sleeping peacefully with dead vipers next to him. 2 officers come in and say that the workers who were working that night shift were executed, but the reason for the viper's appearance is unknown. But this young hound only knew the truth about what happened that night. After that, 8 years later, students were in a class where they were taught about the levels of swordsmanship. If you cannot yet defuse your mana with the sword, you are considered a sword beginner, and if you can infuse it, you are called a sword expert. But when your blade emits mana in liquid form, you are called a sword graduate. Last but not least, the form where the aura is solid and can freely be changed is called the sword master. The strongest of the Baskerville family is Sir Hugo, who is at the level. Van thinks Hugo was already a sword master, as he needs to regain his powers before the coming-of-age ceremony. He lost himself in his thoughts, thinking how many years he needs to kill Hugo. 3 students push him to the corner and ask him if they have heard some rumors about him, as he sat in the Styx River for 7 minutes and killed 2 vipers when he was a baby. Van knows about these 3 as they were the ones who stabbed him during defamation when he was running. They are known as Hugo le Baskerville's Trident. Van thinks he needs to pit them in their place, as they will be a real pain for him in the next 10 years. He points a dagger towards him and tells him that if they stay in the Styx River for 6 minutes, their bodies become steel, and if they stab him, it wouldn't hurt him. One brother comes from behind and puts his hand on his to stop him from breathing and sees if he can truly hold his breath for 7 minutes. And if he does, he will eat his own hand. Van gets along with them, and 1 minute later he is still holding up. They ask him to let him go, then suddenly Van bites his hand. They ask him what he is doing, and he tells them they said he would eat his hand. They tell Van they are not scared, but the 3rd brother says he is and starts crying. As they were about to leave, Van told them where they thought they were going. One brother pulled a dagger and hit Van in the stomach, but Van's body really had become iron. He grabbed his hand and told them to keep playing till the very end with a senile look on his face. They get scared and think the rumors are actually true. Then Van punches him in the face. The other 2 brothers are shocked to see their brother lying on the floor. The next one comes in and Van throws a kick, and they fall down crying. He tells them not to be scared of him, and they will get better soon after they get treated by the priest. But he won't let them leave this room and picks up their dagger and tells them he will be generous today and will let one of you leave right now, but which brother will leave they have to decide by themselves. He throws the dagger towards them and tells them to choose quickly, as one of you should get to live. They started looking at each other with killing looks, and Van thinks that the Triton of Baskerville is going to split now. At the office, the butler is giving the report to the patriarch about the bloody situation with the Moore clan in the ruby mines, as they are claiming this mine is their territory. The patriarch tells him an opportunity will come to discuss that matter if there is anything else. He tells him Van has scored the highest marks in the written exam. Hugo is happy to hear this, and another matter he has to inform him of is that recently there has been a big fight among the young masters. Hugo asks him how many have died. The butler tells him there are no casualties, but the Master Hybero's teeth are completely damaged. Mid-Libero's jaw has been smashed in, and lastly, Master Mobero's left index finger has been cut off, as they have recovered their health since being treated by the priest. But the psychological damage done seems really significant. Hygo tells him they wouldn't fight among themselves as they are so close to each other, but the butler tells him the person who did this to them is the young Master Van, the one who scored the highest score in the written exam. Hugo is shocked to hear this. They call Vicar in the room, and Hugo tells him he has grown a lot. It's been a while since they saw each other. Hugo asks him about the incident, and he tells him they are fine as they were recovered by the priest. Hugo tells him he is not talking about physical damage. He is talking about the damage he caused to their relationship. Since that day, they have been eating separately and acting like they don't know each other, as their combination trick was quite unique, but you have completely torn their relationship apart. Hugo tells him, "Don't you think this was wrong?" Van tells Hugo, "How can a strong person be wrong?" with a sinister look on his face. Hugo tells him that his brother came in ahead of him and said that they would forgive him, yet you don't feel an ounce of guilt at all. Van tells him they forgave him. Van thinks of a memory before his regression. The youngest daughter of a family who was ruined by the Baskerville clan comes to Hugo and tells him that she forgives him and offers a mass. Hugo's response to her after the mass was that he believes that forgiveness is just an excuse for the weak who cannot seek revenge due to the lack of their strength, and only the strong will reign supreme, as weakness is a sin. Hugo tells him he understands the family motto very well. Hugo tells Barrymore, his butler, to let the kid have any snack he wants from the food storage. Van asks if he will have a chocolate then, and as he is leaving, Hugo calls him, "Listen, my son, try to do well in the interim evaluation and don't lose to the direct descendants. Van will give you an annoyed look if you say yes, Lord." He takes him to the storage where they store the best quality chocolates. He tells him he doesn't want anything that's processed, he needs only the beans, which have a rich aroma. They are shocked to hear this, and they give him the beans. Van thinks to himself that he must love chocolates. He tells them there is no need to process them. He will take them as they are. Butler thinks he has the peculiar taste. Van will use these bloody beans during the practical exams, which are in 5 days. On that day, he will cause a catastrophe that has never happened in the Baskerville clan before. In this world of the Baskerville family, referred to as the Berserker family, they put their children through an early education. When they are able to take their first steps, they run up a steep mountain for their basic stamina, and when it's time for their sleep to adjust to tough environments, they sleep with a monster corpse. After that, they are 8 years old, and these young hounds are ready to start their deadly evaluation. That's why this family is called the Berserker family. Today is the practical evaluation and survival exam. They are all gathered at the mountain as their instructor, named Shadow Dog, tells them that they need to survive a month here in these mountains and need to hunt strong and large mountain lions. The points for surviving the exam are 10 points, and if they survive without becoming disabled, then it's 30 points. If they fail other young hounds and survive, then it's 50 points, and if they survive after defeating a monster, then it's 70 points. And lastly, if they fulfill all the conditions listed above, they will get 90 points. Additionally, if they steal the badge of another hound, they will receive their points as well. If they die here, they will receive 0 points, as there are no 100 points here. He advises them not to exit the designated area, as this Nora Mountain is a restricted area with many undiscovered things, and tells them to move within the subjected area because during the exam, shadow dogs will be hiding and grading you. Students see Van, as the rumors say he stayed in the Styx River for 7 minutes and also killed vipers. Having received full marks in theory exams, they will see if he is any good during this practical exam. Van thinks it's been a while since he's been to this mountain. The instructor tells them that at the sound of the bell, their exam will begin as they all start running and occupy the advantageous area for themselves. The instructor says so, it has begun. As in this exam, killing each other is not encouraged, but it is not prohibited. If they kill someone, it will reduce their points, so everyone tries not to kill each other. Van goes to the area, and the shadow dog sees him. He thinks he might be a genius in disguise since childhood, and he is looking forward to seeing what he does in this exam. Van goes under a tree and thinks this will be a great spot for him. Now that he has decided where he will be living, he says he should relax and take a break. Shadow Dog is surprised to hear him as he is going to take a break, as other students are fighting with monsters and other students, but Van is just relaxing. Shadow Dog is unimpressed seeing him only relax for a few days, as he only hunts for food or gathers equipment. He thinks rumors about him being a genius might be fake, and the Shadow Dog thinks he is going to hide, so there is no need to observe him, so he leaves. Van senses him leaving as he planned. Camping outside reminds him of the old days. He says now that the one interfering with this plan is gone, he shall start his hunt now. After a few days, Van goes into the restricted area, as during his soldier days this area wasn't restricted. Then he sees the burned roots of the tree, and he is sure that must be a hellhound. In his scouting days, he found them annoying, but seeing him now makes him happy. These are the lookout monsters who swallowed the hellfires. Van was barely able to take down one hound alone at the age of 18 in his past life. However, now he knows a way where a child can take down a hellhound. As he charges towards him, hellhounds' first weakness is that they can only move in straight lines. It's difficult for them to change directions quickly. Their second weakness is that they can't stand against water. Even if it's a small amount, it slows them drastically. Hellhound charges onto Van with his mouth open. Van throws a seed in this mouth, which makes him fall down as this chocolate is poison for them. And when it comes to bloody beans with a rich aroma, it can paralyze these dogs instantly. Van says even the hellhound can defeat chocolate. He attacks his kidney and kills the dog. When they catch monsters, an energy like XP flows into their bodies, making them stronger. Now that Van's sword feels lighter than before, he thinks he will be able to catch up to where he was before his regression. He gets happy thinking about what kind of face Hugo will make when a kid brings the body of B+ rank, and he has also decided on the reward he wants, a biggest reward, which he has never dreamed of asking for in his past life. As he was about to take his head, other hellhounds came back, as they must have heard the screams of this one. He cuts his head off and says he will kill them too as he has a lot of beans left, but the dog gets scared and doesn't move an inch with their heads down. Van thinks these dogs never get scared. Then he looks back and sees a 3-headed dog named Cerberus with blue flames coming out of his mouth. This is an A+ ranking monster. Its habitat is in the 7th ridge, but why is he here on the 1st ridge? Van sees that he is bleeding. Looking closely, It also has multiple arrows stuck in this body, and few other injuries as well, as someone was trying to hunt him. He remembers about the barbarian tribes in this territory across the mountain. It must have came down here to get away from them. Now this is Van Chance, an injured A+ rank monster in front of him. He need to kill it no matter what happens. Van shows his true power. He have been hiding his power back at the household. He has already reached a high level of expertise, which is as a sword expert. He had already reached the level that other hounds would attain when they become adults. He takes his sword and charges towards the Cerberus and cuts his head. He thinks he can do it. An injured Cerberus is doable for him. Before Van regression, he has refined his sword skills, and also his body had been strengthened by the river Styx. Now all his weapons Van possess are working well against the Cerberus. That's what he thought the moment he let his guard down. Cerberus uses his claws, breaks his swords, and falls on the ground bleeding. After a few moments, he wakes up lying against the tree, and sees that he was unconscious after Cerberus attacked him. He feels pain in his right arm. He sees his arm and sees the cut, thinks this must be the effect of Styx River, or otherwise his arm would have been ripped out. Cerberus charges towards him. He dodges the attack, cause he won't be able to take another hit. Now an experienced hunter must find the best way out of this situation, which is to run towards the safe area. He started running, and Cerberus kept following him. Van wants to pass the iron fence and goes to the place where he set up his camp. If he gets caught before that, he will die. He jumps over the fence, and Cerberus breaks through the fence. Van sees his campsite just a little further then. The Cerberus is right behind him. He was about to get caught. He jumps, and the Cerberus steps on the trap. Van is happy to see his trap works, but the Cerberus' one head is still alive. Van picks up a wooden spear and throws it at the Cerberus. It hit him, and Van starts counting 1, 2. Cerberus comes towards Van, and exactly after 7 steps he falls on the ground. Van is relieved. Van says the rumors were true. The wooden spear he threw wasn't a regular wooden spear. It is laced with the bloody mamba's venomous fangs. It won't let you walk more than 7 steps once bitten by them. Van can feel the energy of Cerberus flowing into his body. All 3 heads are dead now. Van is worried how he is going to take it back. The cause of death will be obvious, and the guardian knight saw him carve the wooden spear, so he will be his witness. But first, Van wants to do something, as these Cerberus are the gatekeepers that protect their territories, so there must have been a dungeon nearby where you can find treasure. Now the gatekeeper is gone, the dungeon must be empty. Van puts the remains and blood of Cerberus on his clothes, which will keep the small monsters away from him. He backtracks the footprints and droll of Cerberus and found the dungeon. Van remembers before his regression coming here, as it will be discovered in another 10 years, but it's going to be empty. But right now, Van can sense mana under the rotten surface. He gets excited thinking what kind of treasure will he found under there, and goes inside the dungeon, and sees a light coming from the entrance of the dungeon. He goes inside and sees a big ruby shining crystal, which is imbued with mana. Van goes close to it and sees a skeleton, which means someone was here before him. Van sees his injuries and dried blood, which means he has been dead for quite a while. He picks up a letter and sees the handwriting and thinks he must be from Baskerville. In the letter he says he is writing this for the future generations do not make the same mistake like he did. This stone chamber has been talked about as legend in the family, so him and his brother Abel coincidentally came across this place and raided the dungeon and passed through countless trails. They killed many monsters and finally arrived at the chamber to find the final assignment of this place. That assignment took a long time of 3 years, which says when entering it's 1, but once inside it's 2, when leaving it's 1. Him and his brother contemplated over this text forever and finally comes to the conclusion him and his twin brother was 1 in their mother's womb, but were separated into 2 when given birth. In other words, to get the treasure they need to become 1 again, which means only one of them can leave with the treasure. After a fierce battle, he ended up killing his brother, but still there was no change. In their theory, they definitely went from 2 to 1, so why they couldn't get the treasure? Filled with guilt of killing his own brother, he decided to leave the place and wanted to tell anyone who come here to leave this place immediately. Van says he came all the way here facing countless challenges and left with nothing, but he doesn't have a twin. Van thinks the assignment is the same for both him and for the cane, which means he might have misinterpreted the text. Van starts thinking as there is no dungeon that cannot be defeated. He looks at the skeleton and starts laughing, which he has figured out the text. Van says these 2 brothers were just unlucky because they were 2 and Coulson solved the problem because they were hindered by a fixed idea. As the answer to this riddle lies inside the dungeon, as Van is the only one entering through the dark passageway, but as soon the ruby light casts a shadow on him, he becomes 2. and he breaks the ruby crystal as the answer to the riddle is shadow. After breaking the crystal, a light appears in front of him and creates a sword. Van gets excited seeing this and thinks this is the relic of the Devil's Den, and the text says only those with the blood of Baskerville's family will be able to take Beelzebub. Van remembers something seen in illustration of picture book in his childhood, where the gluttonous fly named Beelzebub, an unprecedented great monster that invaded the continent in the old legends, the Devil's holy constellation, also known as the Seven Calamities. In order to stop these 7 calamities, the 7 families stepped up to take on the Devil's holy constellation each. The Devil's constellation that the first Baskerville patriarch fought was the gluttony Beelzebub, and the remains of the Beelzebub was stored in the lands of Baskerville, and Beelzebub's demonic energy was said to have lured monster. It was an old legend that no one believes now. However, that legend was true, and this blade was taken later by the demon clans, which resulted in countless of deaths among humans on the battlefield in his previous life. But it won't happen in this life as it's his now. He tries to take out the sword, but it goes into his hand and comes out from the back of his hand as a blade. Van gets really excited and wonders how much stronger will he become in this life, as now he has the Beelzebub, a blade made from the corpse of a Devil's holy constellation. Van thinks he should head back now as there is nothing else for him to obtain. Suddenly he starts feeling dizzy from hungriness and goes on his knees. The sword wants to eat. He comes out of the dungeon and starts feeling voracious hunger in his stomach. The sword that goes to the left side and says it smells something delicious. Van sees the hellhound he killed earlier. The sword starts absorbing the blood of the hellhound. Nad Van insides are reverting back to the normal. Van thinks it must be starving for a long time. He has no idea how much he has to feed him in order to console his eating disorder. After drinking it, a files pop-up appears with 1 slot having hellhound hemorrhage, and second, third are empty. Van thinks this must be Beelzebub's inherent ability. Beelzebub, the gluttonous fly, has the ability to turn the opponent's power into his own. Since the absorption amount is nearly infinite, countless people have said to lost their abilities and turned obsolete. Van thinks due to high being hazardous, he can only steal up to 3 abilities now. The first one is Hellhound Hemorrhage, a skill that constantly pumps out the blood of the opponent even through the smallest of wounds. Van is happy as now he can steal abilities. Then suddenly Beelzebub goes crazy, wants to devour the Cerberus too. But Van tells him no as if it's too damaged, how he would explain everything during the autopsy. Van slaps it, then sees 2 more skills. First is the Burn Injury Cerberus A+, and the second is the Hemorrhage Hellhound B+, and the third is High Speed Regeneration from the Rat F rank. Van thinks it must have consumed the rat underneath the Cerberus. It's a great achievement for Van to have acquired the burn injury kill from the Cerberus, since thermalgia is one og the worst pains a human could experience, which so be worse than the hellhound hemorrhage. Now he has done preparing the monsters to submit for the practical exams. He wants to wait until the exam is over, after the exam is completed, and the hounds who completed by returning to Baskerville. The students will receive a shield, sword as their rewards, which will be produced from the parts of the monster they hunted. Of course, the monsters Van hunted. The instructors were shocked to see them, and the report goes straight to Hugo. He asked his butler who caught them, Master Van from the 8-year-old class, who accidentally crossed over the restricted area during the exam and hunted the Cerberus of the A+ ranking rating. As the Cerberus is a high-ranking monster, even the knights tend to avoid them. Butler tells Hugo that it was wounded by the barbarian tribe, and also Van applied poison on his wooden spear. Hugo asks him what kind of poison is lethal enough to kill the Cerberus, and how was Van able to get it. Butler says there is nothing about the poison that's reported in the hunting journal, and when he asked Van, he said he is tired and goes to his dorm. Hugo smiling and thinks as that little brat is already so sly. According to him, information is power and power is your worth. Butler tells Hugo he is quite shocked to see that a master named Van and not La or La would be so talented. Hugo tells him he is not like other patriarchs. When he raises a hound, he doesn't discriminate them based on their blood. It doesn't matter where they comes from, as they have talent, he welcomes them, and which means that there can be mutts coming from royal bloodlines too. Butler thinks is he concerned about his second son, who is preparing for the isolation training. Hugo tells him to bring Van. He comes in the room, and Hugo tells him he heard that you hunted a Cerberus in your practical exams, how he was able to hunt that monster. Van tells him he put chocolate on his wooden spear. As for canned monsters, chocolate is a lethal poison, and ask him that's why he asked for it. He tells them yes. Hugo asked him why he didn't respond properly to the butler when he questioned him about it. Why is that? Van says that because he is not his master, since he belonged to the clan, so his master would be the one who is the clan master. Hugo tells him he has learned very well. As a reward, the corpse of the monster he wanted will belong to him, and additionally, if he has any wish, Hugo will grant it as he has scored the highest score in the exam. Van says he would like to gain access to the 10,000 epistle library. They are surprised hearing this. This library is one of the largest libraries in the Empire, which is located deep within the heart of the Baskerville clan. Hugo tells him that only him and the second in command along with their direct descendants are allowed to it. Van tells him if it's not permitted, he will give up and will have to sneak in the library. Hugo tells him he can enter the library, and also he should read the Baskerville 6th technique, which is located within the 6th restricted zone deep inside the library. Van is surprised to hear this, as there has never been a case where Hugo would ever let an illegitimate child with the Van middle name was allowed to go past the 4th technique. Van pulls himself together, as Hugo's current level is the Baskerville 7th technique, and before his regression he was able to bear 9 of the fangs. Now Van haven't forgotten about the life of discrimination as an illegitimate child and will surpass Hugo in this lifetime. Because Van wants to obtain the greatest essence of Baskerville, which is the textbook of swordsmanship containing 3 teachings of the first patriarch, who was able to defeat the 7 great disasters, which he will get that from none other than Hugo le Baskerville. Hugo tells Van he is looking forward to see him. Van says thank you and will surpass his expectations. Van goes to the library, which is guarded by 2 guards. Finally, Van can use the books on swordsmanship that he wanted to desperately learn in his past life, cause no matter how much mana does an illegitimate child of Baskerville had, they can't learn any swordsmanship skill that is superior to the 4th technique. In order to ensure that the children who become hounds doesn't bare their teeth towards their master, Van finally comes across the book, which is chained up. Van thinks Hugo would have never given him this offer before his regression, as Hugo must be thinking, how could an 8-year-old memorize this in a day? He opened the lock, but before his regression he learnt the theory behind the 1st till 4th technique until he got sick of it, and was able to deduce and speculate the theory of the 5th technique. As he was reading the book, he remembers after drawing the 4th tooth he needed to stop the flow of mana, but couldn't. That's why he wasn't able to make the 5th tooth. As Baskerville sword's technique, depending on the stage of the sword, it's 1 tooth for the 1st technique, 2 teeth for the 2nd, and so on. And when they draw teeth, a special trait, a red sword energy, appears. But Van is not interested in the 6th technique, since the real reason is different why he came to this library, a stage that's higher than these techniques. He comes to the guard and tells them he is finished here. They are shocked to hear this, as Van been here for a few minutes. They tell Van to stay here longer and look around. Van tells them before he wants to read some other books, so don't worry about him and do what they need to do. He goes to find the book, which in his opinion is a hidden treasure. He found the book named Lurking Ambush. He gets excited when he found the book. This is the book on the basics of the 1st technique that the Baskerville family don't read. Due to ripped pages, it's a useless book, but Van knows the true value of this book. Before his regression in the Hound squad he was in, they had found a strange relic in the dungeon that was on the border of the Nora Mountain, which was a page from a swordsmanship textbook, but it was a single ripped page, a page with Baskerville's handwriting written on the page. Hugo found this remarkable and goes through the whole library to find the book that matches the page. That was the swordsmanship book, A Lurking Ambush. In this book, the Baskerville ancestors wrote a Baskerville 10th technique in it. Hugo goes crazy about the technique and released the hounds and found the remaining 6 pages that had the technique written on them. Hugo finds out that the remaining pages were hidden in the Great Sudden families. He declared war on other families and sent hounds to those who refused him. And after the sacrifices of so many hounds, all the missing pages were given to Hugo, and the reward for doing all of that was nothing. Van gets mad, says that it was a stupid life, due to which Hugo broke the 7th technique and achieved the 10th technique, and under was a pile of wasted corpses of Hound and their blood. Van will not let that happen in this life, as the Hound who reclaimed all those pages were Van, and he remembers all the contents that were written on those pages, and the reason he couldn't go beyond the 4th technique was because he didn't have access to the original book, and he starts reading the book as he thinks that it really does seem like a useless book, but when you use the missing pages and fill the blanks, that false, misleading information becomes into an amazing masterpiece of a book. Van wants to reclaim the power he had before his regression, and kept reading the book till the next day, closes the book as now he has memorized the book's contents from start to end. He doesn't feel the presence of the guards. He can't draw 10 teeth with a young body, but for now he might be able to achieve the 5th technique, which he can't in his previous life. He imagines a body in front of him, and uses the first technique, then the second, then third, and then the fourth. Remembers that his previous life was pathetic. After his hard work, he was able to maintain the highest level of graduator aura, but he wasn't able to learn a suitable sword technique, so the people of the direct bloodline were hostile towards him, and he couldn't go past the 5th stage because he was born as an illegitimate child. But in this life, he will never live like that, and finally was able to use the 5th technique. Van thinks he is still weak, but was able to draw the 5th tooth. Van gets so excited and was really happy as he was able to use the 5th technique. Now Vayne Mana has reached a new max. This liquid aura is the sign of a graduator, which means he has gone from high-class sword expert to low-class graduator. In his previous life, it took him 30 years to achieve this, but couldn't believe he had managed to reach that level at only 8 years old. Graduators are completely different level from sword experts. The solid aura turns into liquid aura, and the density also increases. Allows it to be used more freely. Now his swordsmanship is also much better than before he regressed. Now he won't stop at the 5th technique, but a sword technique can reach up to 10 technique with endless possibilities. The piercing fang that he learned previously, although it was true that he could get stronger in a short period of time, but it has its limitations. But on the other hand, the lurking ambush, it's a perfect sword technique that can smoothly transition between offense and defensive with no growth limitations. If Vayne put his mind to it, he might be able to challenge a mid-class graduator. The only problem Van has now is how much his power he can show it to Hugo. As he can't show too much or too less of his strength, he needs to give Hugo something to look forward so he have enough time to take everything he need. Van puts a magnifying glass in front of the book and burns the book, thinking Hugo will have a hard time reaching the 10th technique, which excludes Van, of course. Guards come in and ask Van what is he doing. He apologized to them as he accidentally left the magnifying glass around it and burned the book. Guards tell him it's nothing as it's the section of the useless books. Van tells them, aren't you guys are busy with the Morg clan regarding the ruby mines, and this small problem isn't worth their time. Guards tell him if he keeps it a secret, they will follow his lead. He says of course he will keep this secret between them and leaves the library. He comes to Hugo and he asks him what did he learn there. He tells them something warm, sharp, and yet soft, felt something like that. They both are surprised to hear this. Aura is the sign that you have officially entered the world of the swords. Even geniuses have to train without rest until they are 15 in order to reach the level of low-class sword expert. Hugo gets excited and asks Van to show his father what that is. Van said of course. The scene shifts to the arena where all the students gather and Van has a sword in this hand. Butler asks Hugo how is he planning to test out skills of young Master Van. He says he is planning to release a monster for him to deal with. All the gates closes and a monster comes in with chains and orc with risk rating of C. Students are surprised to see an orc and thinks it's an overkill to send an orc to deal with an 8-year-old. Hugo gives him the signal to release the monster. As he got released, he shouts loudly and charges towards Van. He easily cuts his one arm and one leg and falls to the ground. Orc must be feeling pain for the first time as his regeneration won't activate either. It's because a C-class monster won't be able to stop the hemorrhage caused by a B-class hellhound. Everyone is surprised to see this, but Hugo is calmly watching him. Van thinks he is waiting to see what he learned inside the library. Van says he will show him what he wants. Hugo and his butler are both surprised to see this, as takes out an aura blade and dashes towards the monster. Hugo is totally stunned seeing this. His butler tells Hugo that is certainly the aura of a low-class sword expert and congratulate him. They have just witnessed the birth of a genius. Hugo tells him is that what he thinks. Butler says among all the families, he don't think there will ever be a genius like this. Hugo stops him and tells him that something is wrong with the orc as they known for their regeneration. As you can see, his bleeding isn't stopping, and tells him that he only won because the orc was much weaker. Van shouts at Hugo and says, "Father, is there anything stronger than the orc?" All the students are surprised to see this. However, Van thinks it's better he show off his power to a certain degree. If he gets lucky, his progress might get acknowledged, and he will be separated from Hugo. He could get dispatched to a remote area or get admitted to an academy. Hugo gets excited as an orc is not enough to satisfy his son. He tells the butler to bring the creature they captured during the barbarian raid for experiments. He says they have one left now. It must be starving now that it's been starving for a while. Students are surprised seeing this. Van is wowing as this is a troll which is 10 times bigger than him. Van asks Hugo can he start. He says yes, and they remove the chains, and they both charges towards each other. Troll punches Van, but he dodges the attack, comes behind, but doesn't attack. The students get frustrated as this was his chance, but Hugo says this was a good choice. These trolls have excellent regenerative powers, so only the fatal attack are worth it. Which is why a plan is needed to hunt a troll. Van dodges all his attacks and Troll seems to get tired. If Van could use his full power, he could easily have defeated the monster, but he has to act. Van needs to make his win by using Troll's power against him and charges towards the troll and cuts it. Everyone thinks he will regenerate unless it's a fatal wound. Everyone thinks killing a troll with Baskerville first technique is too hard, and it is quite impressive he is able to accomplish despite being only 8 years old. Certainly, the Baskerville first technique is not enough to slice through his thick skin, but they would die from Beelzebub hemorrhage skill after a while, which would be meaningless. Hugo tells Van this is enough anymore, can be dangerous, so stop. Van tells Hugo he is almost done, and tells him he is near an epiphany, and he will give up if he can't kill it with his next attack. Hugo is surprised to see this and lets him fight. Now how much Van should oppose his power, which he has already decided. He wants to show a scenario where he has leveled up from an epiphany during the fight. Van gets ready to attack the troll, and thinking how will Hugo react after seeing this, he charges forward and cuts the troll's neck down. Butler and all the students are shocked seeing this. In iron-blooded sword clan Baskerville, a person's life is formulaically set. About at the age of 15, a hound can imbue the sword with mana. Normally hounds attain the Baskerville first technique at that stage. But at this moment, first time in all of the Baskerville clan's history, an 8-year-old has attained the second technique, which is normally achieved at 18 years of age. Van gets happy smiling and says he finally did it. Hugo couldn't believe what he just saw. After that scene goes to a weeks later, where students are eating in the hall, and Van can't get used to the porridge they serve. After that incident, everyone has been distancing themselves from him. He gets happy seeing Hugo taken aback at the arena, for now Van has revealed that he can use second sword technique. But in reality, he is a low-rank graduator and can weakly perform the fifth technique of the Baskerville, and also with the skill he got from the troll he should be stronger than the average graduator. In slot 3 he has super speed regeneration troll skill. Van has been eating a lot more ever since he got Beelzebub. The three brother comes to him, Van sees them and tells them was the last time not enough. They just wanted to tell Van that he looked cool when he defeated the troll and the Cerberus. Van doesn't like that and almost spits his food. He doesn't understand what kind of trick they are pulling and thinks he should beat them. Then Butler comes in. Van is surprised to see him, and he tells Van to hurry up to the Patriarch's room. The scene moved to a royal palace where Hugo is meeting with the head of Morg clan named Adolf Morg. Adolf tells Hugo he hopes the annual event goes smoothly. Hugo tells him it always goes smoothly. Adolf says, but last time there were 2 seriously injured students from each family. Hugo say it was just a scratch, as the Morg's children are quite the dramatic ones. Adolf gets irritated and says of course, because they are noble and dignified, and they both started emitting their auras as they ready to fight. They were not always on bad terms. The Emperor once said that magic and swords are a complementary pair, due to which the Baskerville and Morgs began joint training sessions. Only the children between the age of 8 and 15 can participate, and it was carried out as a good atmosphere as an annual event. However, a problem occurred. There was a ruby mine in between Morg and Baskerville territory, which ended up being split over this conflict. As a result, the 2 patriarchs came to be on bad terms, but they have continued the joint training on the Emperor's command, due to which Patriarch's younger brother Adolf came in this stead. Adolf asks Hugo about the news that a supernova has arrived in his family. Hugo smilingly says it's not a big deal. Adolf is surprised to see Hugo reacting to a compliment about his child. Adolf tells Hugo they also have a genius among them named Camus and tells her to come in. She comes and Old tells Hugo she is his sister Respini's daughter. Adolf tells her to greet the Patriarch. She gets angry and asks Hugo, you are the one who stole our ruby mine, and tells him to give it back. Hugo gets mad as she called him thief. Adolf is flustered about Camus, and she says he was the saying that annoying Chinbird stole the ruby mine. Adolf tells Hugo this is just a misunderstanding. Hugo says no worries, she is just a child, as there's no need to explain the Morg's problem children education to him. Camus shouts to Hugo saying give her rubies back, as because she can't do research as she doesn't have enough. Adolf doesn't get why is she saying that. Now Hugo is really mad and tells the girl to stop, enough is enough. Adolf gets scared and tells Hugo to calm down, as what does he plan on doing to a child? Then Van comes into the room. Adolf thinks this child must be that supernova of the Baskerville. Camus goes straight to Van. He recognized her as she is the famous Morg clan iron-blooded princess Camus Morg, who was called the genius of geniuses, even in the Morg clan. In her peak she killed all of the monsters and barbarians in the Nora Mountain by herself, and burned them to death on spears, creating the famous border of blood and ashes. Plus, her beauty was captivating as she was able to manipulate Ed and the imperial family, therefore was called the fur goddess of authority. But that's in the future. Right now she is just a child. She asks him why the ruby mine is his, not hers. Van tells her she came a long way just to throw a tantrum. She gets mad and tells Van, "Let me show you a hide. The ruby mine belonged to the Morgs, so that a stupid person like you can even understand." Van says that sounds fun. She creates an ice sculpture of their palace. Van is disappointed as he thought they were going to fight. She explains to him that the mine is situated on the border between Morg and Baskerville, which is called the Joint Security Area. The problem is that the entrance of the mine is on Morg territory, but the mines runs underneath the Baskerville family territory. The Baskerville family can't take the mine for themselves as the ruby minerals vein belongs to the Morg clan. But Baskerville are asserting that it's trespassing and interrupting the mine and also rejecting our offer to pay the rent for the territory. Adolf thinks this is a great point. She tells Van that rubies are used for magic ingredients, so the Baskerville family doesn't need the mine. Van tells her it must be tragedy for them, as there isn't an idiot in the Baskerville who would open up the land just to earn a few pennies from you guys. She tells Van that he just said that the Baskerville don't need the rubies. Van tells her that's right, they are only interested in their land. She tells Van that she will make him understand who has the possession over the ruby mineral mine. The left side is the Baskerville and the right side is Morg's. She puts her arm on the left and asks him whose arm is this. Van tells her she is asking whose arm it is that's in his land. He grabs her hand and tells her it's his, of course. She started blushing and tells him how can she be his stupid. Van tells her he did not say that you are mine, and takes out a dagger. Everyone is shocked to see this. He is saying that her arm is his with a sinister look on his face. Hugo is surprised to see this happening. Van was about to cut her hand. She shouts, "Help, uncle!" Adolf gets mad and tells Van to get away from his niece. Surprised by this, Van let go of her hand. She starts crying as he was about to cut his hand. Adolf asks Hugo what is going on here. Hugo tells Van that he has gone far with that joke. Van says sorry while he plays with the toy sword. Van immediately apologizes as he had no intention to make her cry. As in the Baskerville family, kids often play with toys like these from a young age. Adolf is still mad at Van for playing prank. Hugo tells him not to get overly involved in child play as he has some ideas regarding the ruby mines, which he is sure Morg would love to hear about it. Camus tells Van to better watch his back as she will take her revenge. Van just kept smiling at her. The friendly cues between the Baskerville's family and Morg's family begun. In this occasion where children ages between 8 to 15 gather and battle it out, while 8 years old challenge each other in theory or mana sensitivity. On the other hand, children around the age 15 get most attention with their live battles. However, this year everyone's attention is somewhere. The duel between Camus from the Morg clan and Van from the Baskerville clan. As requested by the Morgs, they will use practical rules and showcase a duel between the two geniuses. The bell rings and Camus casts a spell. Everyone is surprised to see this, as this is her infamous quadra casting. Adolf gets happy seeing Camus performing a spell which is even difficult for a 15-year-old. As she fires her spell, Van easily dodges her attacks, and tells her it would have been better if she would have focused on a single spell. She gets mad, tells him she doesn't care about that, and puts up a sand wall in front of her, but Van easily broke through the wall. Camus didn't expect him to break through the wall, and she closes her eyes. As she opens them, Van flicks her on her head. Adolf didn't like that at all, and Hugo is loving this. She tells Van she will not let him get away with this. She puts 2 sand walls thinking he can't get through these layers. Van thinks what's the point, he can go around them, but he plays along and punches through them, and tells her whose arm just crossed the wall, and the answer is the stronger one as he flicks her head. She has a ball on her face and shoots a fire at him. Van thought she would give up if he hurt her like that, but thinks dealing with children is harder than he thought. Van could defeat her in 0.1 second, but that will cause an issue. He thinks he should let the others deal with this problem. He sees a mage who keeps shooting fire magic, and the swordsman why keeps slicing magic would be helpful for him. The mage uses his advanced fire spell and fires it. Van waits for his chance, and as he was moving away from her, he tells Camus to have a defensive spell ready as the fireball is coming right at her. She doesn't have much time to think and gets caught in it. Everyone is worried as they took a direct hit. But Camus is sitting covering herself as her clothes were burned in the fire, and she is embarrassed if the smoke around her disappears, and the people will see her. She will be a laughingstock for everyone. Van comes to the rescue to gives her his jacket. She gets mad at him and asks him why is he helping the enemy. He tells her should he take his jacket back. She asks him he doesn't care about his body being exposed to everyone. Van tells her he doesn't care about that. She thinks, why is he caring about her? She tells him his arm is bleeding. Van thinks it must be from the swordsman. He might have some mana left in him. After the smokes clears, Adolphe is relieved to see that she is fine. Everyone sees that Camus is on the ground, and they can't determine who won, but they amazed seeing the body of Van, and it must be thanks to the river Styx. Adolphe takes Camus with him. The scene shifts to the hall where Hugo and Van are walking. Hugo asks Van about the battle with the lady of the Morgue clan. He says it was interesting as now he understands the purpose of this event. Hugo tells him a battle against Mage is different than the battle between the swordsmen. He asks Van why he didn't go for a clear blow. Van tells him he was confused about how to deal with a lady. Hugo tells him letting your guard down in battle will lead to injury. Take that injury as a lesson. Van is stunned to see Hugo caring about him, as during his youth he doesn't remember much about him. But he was always so cold, so strict, and so brutal. Rumors for his personality got so bad was because he lost his first wife and his eldest daughter. Well, that's not his problem. We comes to them. Hugo asks Van about what they should do with the ruby mines. He tells him that they should give it away. Hugo asked what's his reasoning for this, as the main task for the Baskerville clan is to grow their territories. As the Red All Mountain where ruby mine is located is the downstream from the Nora Mountain, the monsters and the barbarians there will become a problem for them. So they should let the Morgue clan to deal with them to minimize the losses during the expansion into that region. Hugo tells Van this is correct. Once the Morgue clan receives the control over the ruby mines, they will assign a great number of people there, and all they need to push the barbarians and the monsters into that region, and they will be able to care of all the problems at once. And if that happens, Morgue clan will think twice before entering your territory. Hugo pats Van's head as his idea was about 90% correct. As they were walking, Adolphe comes in front of them and tells him he wants to talk to him before he returns. Camus is blushing behind him. They goes into the room and Hugo asks him what's the last thing he wants to talk about. Adolphe tells him they have been thinking about peacefully resolve the issue regarding the ruby mines. Fees for its usage is one of the suggestions. Adolphe asks him how about an engagement between the Morgue and the Baskerville children. Hugo asks him which child he have in his mind. Adolphe tells him how about his eldest son of Baskervilles and the eldest daughter of the Morgues, which is his niece. She is an incredible child, as has looks and knowledge, she lacks nothing. Hugo tells him his eldest son is 25 this year. Are you aware about the age gap? It's a 17-year difference. Adolphe tells him it's not a problem. Camus tells everyone that she will not marry anyone weaker than her mom. Adolphe tells her for someone like Strong, she would have lived her entire life alone. Camus says it doesn't, this is her condition. Hugo tells her this is not a buffet of her choosing. Camus tells Hugo she knows, and she has no intention of playing around either. She looks at Van. Adolphe tells her no, never, as he has the Van surname, which is not one of the Le descent. Hugo finds this oddly annoying. Hugo asks Van what are his thoughts about his engagement with her, as Camus watching him. Van says he will do it, if this is Hugo's order. Adolphe didn't like that at all. Camus watched Van closely, her cheeks flushing with a mixture of hope and admiration. She couldn't help but wonder if Van was receptive to the unspoken feelings that lingered in the air. Beneath his confident facade, she sensed a hidden shyness that endeared him to her even more. Hugo's voice cut through the tension, diverting their attention. He dismissed the significance of names and titles within the illustrious Baskerville household. According to Hugo, the true measure of a person lay in their lineage. Lackluster individuals hailed from the Le descent, while greatness emanated from the Van lineage. Adolphe, Camus's uncle, was visibly taken aback by this revelation. He approached Van with an air of familiarity, acknowledging him as a staunch supporter of his niece. However, Adolphe cautioned Van against sharing certain information, implying that it might not be wise. Despite the warnings, Adolphe emphasized the importance of ensuring that the right individual became Camus's husband. Van contemplated the engagement between the clans, viewing it as more of a suggestion than a heartfelt agreement. He found himself less than satisfied with the supposed genius of Baskerville. Adolphe's scrutiny didn't escape Van's notice. The Morgue clan member, known as one of the strongest within his clan and a loyal supporter of Camus, examined Van's physique with interest. Adolphe's sudden appearance surprised Van, who had been lost in thought. Camus's voice broke through his reverie, and Van confessed that he hadn't been paying attention since it was deemed unwise to share certain truths. Camus was thoroughly impressed by Van's boldness in front of her uncle, and Adolphe's mischievous smirk hinted at a deeper intention. Adolphe expressed his desire for a more profound conversation with Van, prompting Hugo to interject with skepticism. He questioned whether Adolphe intended to scold an 8-year-old child. Adolf's response was unexpected. He viewed Van as a potential husband for his niece and emphasized that this request came not from the patriarch of the Moor clan, but from a concerned uncle. Camus, torn between her loyalty to Van and her uncle's wishes, tried to dissuade Adolf. But Adolf reassured her that this was an inevitable development and implored Hugo to grant him this opportunity. Hugo eventually relented, and the trio moved to an outdoor arena. Camus and Hugo watched from the sidelines as Adolf declared his intention to test Van's abilities thoroughly. Van, wary of revealing too much, cautioned Adolf that going all out might lead to him passing out. Adolf's response was a wry smile, and he introduced a unique handicap, an ordinary pot filled with water. Camus couldn't hide her shock at the unconventional choice. Adolf clarified the rules of their duel. Van had to face him with the pot on his head, and victory would be Van's if he managed to force a single drop of water to fall. Van realized that Adolf would be a formidable opponent even without this handicap. Still, he saw this as an opportunity to experience the true extent of Adolf's power, one of the reasons why Hugo had accepted Adolf's request in the first place. Adolf urged Van to give it his all, but Van believed that he only needed to meet Hugo's expectations. With determination, Van charged straight at Adolf. Camus, witnessing the reckless charge, couldn't help but warn Van about running straight at her uncle. To her surprise, Adolf summoned a shield that effortlessly blocked Van's attack. Van knew that piercing through this shield with conventional aura swords would be an arduous task. Adolf escalated the battle by creating a barrage of fireballs and launching them aggressively at Van. Camus grew increasingly frustrated, as she had never seen Adolf employ magic like this in their duels. Adolf questioned her loyalty, placing her in a precarious position. Van found himself challenged by Adolf's relentless attack, struggling to dodge the fiery onslaught. It became apparent that there was no need to intervene. The two combatants were locked in a fierce battle. At just 8 years old after his regression and with retained knowledge from his previous life, Van possessed a unique advantage. Wayne believed that Van could exploit these factors to catch Adolf off guard and potentially defeat him. With this intent in mind, Wayne charged toward the battle, swinging his sword against Adolf's shield. Adolf confidently stated that Van's sword couldn't break through his shield, but Wayne persisted, targeting a specific point on the shield. Adolf couldn't help but be impressed by Van's unwavering focus and exceptional swordsmanship skills. However, Wayne's swords ultimately broke, much to Adolf's satisfaction. Camus and Hugo were left stunned by this turn of events, and Hugo reflected on the importance of adapting one's strategy to the opponent. Adolf praised Van's talent but declared him too weak to support his niece. Then, unexpectedly, water began to drip from the pot on Adolf's head. Confused and bewildered, Adolf couldn't comprehend what had just transpired. It turned out that a piece of Van's broken sword had coincidentally pierced the pot, causing the water to leak. Van claimed victory, and Camus blushed at the thought of their future together. However, Hugo harbored a different perspective. To him, this victory was no coincidence. It appeared that Van was shaping up to be a much more formidable contender than he had initially expected. The narrative then shifted to a scene 7 years later at the Baskerville training grounds. Students engaged in combat against a giant bear monster, their instructor closely monitoring their progress. The instructor shared valuable tactics for facing a stronger opponent: step back, target the legs to slow it down, and then strike the vital points. The students were awed as 3 brothers efficiently dispatched the bear, defying their expectations. After the battle, the students gathered, marking the conclusion of their 7 years of training. They received congratulations on their graduation, and excitement filled the air as they contemplated their future paths. Among the various night orders within the Baskerville clan, each dedicated to specific objectives such as surveillance, search missions, guarding, assassination, suppression, and warfare, they wondered which order Van would choose. The narrative then transitioned to Van, who sat atop the defeated bear. He couldn't help but overhear the students discussing his achievements. He was already considered a sword expert and possessed 3 bear fangs. Van's thoughts turned inward as he contemplated his progress. Despite his hidden level now being that of a graduate intermediate rank in the Baskerville technique, compared to 7 years ago when he was a graduate low rank, his growth had been slower than anticipated. A butler interrupted his reverie, announcing that the patriarch was seeking his presence, suggesting that Van's assignment had already been decided. Van made his way to meet Hugo, who appeared noticeably older than before. Their conversation began with Van's curiosity about the scar on Hugo's nose, earned during a skirmish with barbarians on Nor Mountain. Van asked if they had been captured, but Hugo admitted they had not, though he proudly mentioned giving one of the archers a matching scar. Hugo congratulated Van on his graduation, hinting that the challenges were only going to intensify from here. Van suspected that Hugo was about to discuss his assignment. Prior to his regression, Van had become a junior knight of the Pitbull Order and had been dispatched to the Nora Mountain, where he faced non-stop peril for 21 months. He had been treated like an expendable, thrust into battle immediately upon reaching the age of 15. In the Baskerville Clan, children were categorized as either elite or expendable at the age of 15. The expendables faced death in battle, while the elite received education in politics and administration. Over time, experienced expendables became guards for the elites, who matured by practicing politics and administration. The fifth Baskerville technique had been developed to allow the elite to catch up to the expendables, given their extensive combat experience. This explained why Van's swordsmanship hadn't surpassed the fourth technique before his regression. Hugo's reluctance to allow an illegitimate child like Van to take an elite course was palpable. However, he surprised Van by suggesting that he try the lower house of Parliament. Van was taken aback by this unexpected opportunity. The lower parliament played a crucial role in managing various aspects of the clan, including regional administration, legislature, law enforcement, business affairs, and more. Van was stunned that Hugo had allowed an illegitimate child like him to enter the elite course. Hugo justified his decision by highlighting Van's exceptional achievements. He revealed that Van would take on the role of Deputy Consul of Underdog City, a prestigious position usually reserved for elite members. Both the consul and deputy consul positions were currently vacant. Hugo asked Van if he was willing to accept this responsibility. Van agreed, respecting Hugo's decision. However, before proceeding, he had something important to discuss. Hugo was curious, and Van mentioned the incident involving the Morgue clan and the ruby mines. Hugo immediately understood, referring to how Van had outwitted Adolf. Van asked to borrow a promised reward once more. The butler, shocked by Van's audacity, anticipated Hugo's response. Van clarified that Hugo need not grant his request if it was too much. However, Hugo stamped the papers, agreeing to fulfill Van's request. He expressed trust in Van, believing that he would not act recklessly. As Van and the butler left the room, the butler noted that the patriarch treasured Van immensely, assigning him the role of a consul instead of dispatching him immediately into battle. The butler believed that Van would prove invaluable when the time came. Van acknowledged this potential but recognized that it would only come to fruition if he successfully managed his responsibilities as deputy consul. He viewed this as an opportunity to hone his skills and utilize his authority to greater effect. Despite his lack of interest in current events, he couldn't forget the memories of his previous life, including the sensation of his head rolling off the guillotine. He contemplated revenge against those who had wronged him, vowing to make Hugo experience a similar sensation. In the heart of the underdog territory, the air was heavy with anticipation. Workers diligently scrubbed away the grime that had clung to the walls and floors of their humble space. It was no ordinary day. News had circulated that a new deputy consul was en route, and the twist in the tale was that this deputy consul was rumored to be a mere 15 years old. As the elder among the workers barked orders for a more thorough cleaning, skepticism hung in the air like a thick fog. Who would entrust such a significant role to a child? The question seemed to be on everyone's mind. Then, breaking through the quiet chatter and the sound of scrubbing, a newcomer strode into the room. Two workers, puzzled by the unexpected guest, instinctively moved to block his path. Their hands firmly grasped his arms, intending to halt his progress. But the newcomer, who went by the name of Van, was not one to be trifled with. He shot them a withering glare and, with a stern voice, ordered them to remove their hands immediately. The workers, taken aback by the sudden turn of events, withdrew their hands in haste. The shock that rippled through the room was palpable when they realized that the young Van was, in fact, the newly appointed deputy consul. With an air of authority, Van wasted no time in issuing his commands. He instructed the workers to prepare for a grand celebration, demanding women and drinks without delay. It was clear that he intended to mark his arrival with a bang. The scene shifted swiftly to a lively party. Women and men mingled, clinking glasses, savoring sumptuous dishes, exchanging stories, and reveling in the festivities. Laughter and music filled the air as the night wore on. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit room overlooking the scene, a man named Chihuahua Baskerville, the general secretary of the underdog city, simmered with frustration. He watched the revelry unfold below with a mix of disbelief and anger. It was inconceivable to him that a newly appointed deputy consul would choose to indulge in such festivities on their very first day in office. Chihuahua muttered his discontent, referring to Van as a ridiculous guy who had been assigned to the prestigious role. He couldn't fathom what kind of troublemaker this young, untested kid might turn out to be. Van, wearing an intimidating aura like a cloak, approached Chihuahua from behind. Startled, Chihuahua spun around, only to find himself face to face with the enigmatic deputy consul. With an air of calm authority, Van inquired if Chihuahua was, indeed, the general secretary. Chihuahua, still reeling from the surprise, stammered out a response. As their introductions unfolded, it became evident that Van had observed a key detail. Chihuahua lacked a middle name, suggesting that he was not a blood member of the Baskerville family. Chihuahua, on his part, had endured years of discrimination from previous deputy consuls due to his outsider status. He was taken aback when Van's response to his lack of a middle name was a simple, "It's nice." It was an unexpected and welcome change. Van then dropped another bombshell, revealing that he had already perused Chihuahua's personal information. He confirmed that Chihuahua was born and raised in the underdog city, an insider who knew the intricacies of the place. Van assured him that he had no intention of meddling in Chihuahua's methods and expressed trust in his ability to carry out his duties effectively. Amidst these revelations, Chihuahua couldn't help but wonder if Van's presence at the party was part of some elaborate plan. He questioned the motive behind Van's unexpected arrival when he had initially asked for the celebration. As Chihuahua's musings continued, Van spoke up, addressing a deeper concern. He acknowledged that while the personal law system seemed sound, there were peculiarities within the judicial system that needed attention. Chihuahua, surprised to see that Van had already familiarized himself with these intricacies, listened intently. Van then delved into the core issue plaguing the underdog city, the thriving illegal businesses that operated with impunity. He pointed out that these underground enterprises held sway over the city, effectively making a mockery of the law. Simply shutting down illegal businesses wouldn't suffice. Van believed that the heads of these underground enterprises needed to be ousted. He emphasized the role of the deputy consul, tasked with making and executing laws. Van conveyed his respect for the existing laws, but asserted his intent to introduce a new law, one aimed at dismantling the underground economy. Chihuahua was taken aback by the audacity of this plan. Van, however, had a condition. He declared his intention to plunge the underground economy into chaos within a week, but he needed a cause to justify and execute this law. When Chihuahua questioned the need for a cause to eliminate illegal businesses, Van likened it to laying bait for flies, a performance that would draw attention and make his actions more convincing. Chihuahua was left pondering what Van had in store. Little did he know that the next day would witness a display of audacity and leadership that would forever change the dynamics of the underdog city. The sun had barely risen when Van took to the bustling streets of Underdog City. His arrival was met with a buzz of conversation, and as word spread, curious residents gathered around. The notice of his appointment as deputy consul had not gone unnoticed. Beside Van stood a display of the laws that had governed the city for years. Observers couldn't help but notice the extensive list of laws, raising eyebrows and sparking discussions about the role of the higher-ups and potential lobbying efforts. Chihuahua, who had been simmering with anger, finally lost his patience. He sternly ordered the chatter to cease, reminding the onlookers that Van hailed from the prestigious Baskerville family. The crowd fell silent, but murmurs of dissent continued, with some questioning the legitimacy of a child carrying out the duties of a deputy consul. Then, in a dramatic and unexpected turn of events, Van raised his hand and, with a forceful strike, shattered the ground beneath him. A spear was driven halfway into the earth, and Van, rising to his feet, declared his intention to announce a new special law as the deputy consul. With bated breath, the crowd listened as Van proclaimed the first clause of Van's special law. Whoever could extract the spear from the ground would be rewarded with 100 million gold coins. A stunned hush fell over the assembly as disbelief rippled through the crowd. Could it be true? Was Van really offering such a sum, 4 times the average salary? Van's words hung in the air, met with skepticism and doubt. Some accused him of attempting to deceive them, and their accusations grew into a cacophony of shouts and protests. Chihuahua, who had managed to regain his composure, felt a sense of embarrassment wash over him. But Van wasn't finished. He increased the reward, first to 1 billion gold coins, then to 10 billion. The crowd's astonishment grew with each new offer. Yet, despite the tantalizing sums, uncertainty and suspicion still prevailed. It was only when Van upped the reward to an astronomical 100 billion gold coins that the tide began to turn. Hesitation gave way to determination, and a sense of opportunity washed over the assembly. 10 billion was one thing, but 100 billion gold coins were an unimaginable fortune. Chihuahua, watching from the sidelines, was visibly embarrassed by the situation. He approached Van and confessed that the city simply did not possess such an astronomical sum. A young girl, her eyes filled with determination, raised her hand and offered to attempt the seemingly impossible task. The onlookers warned her against it, fearing that there must be a catch. Her mother's illness, however, compelled her to take the risk. She approached the stake, her small hands trembling as she prepared to make the attempt. With a deep breath and unwavering resolve, the young girl grasped the stake and, to everyone's astonishment, effortlessly extracted it from the ground. The crowd erupted into cheers, and the girl stood there, a mix of fear and hope in her eyes. Van, true to his word, approached her and handed over 100 million gold coins. The onlookers watched in awe as this unexpected turn of events unfolded. Van assured the girl that the remaining 100 billion gold coins would be delivered to her home. He even promised to provide a guard to protect her newfound wealth. The simple act of obeying the law and extracting the stake had earned the girl unimaginable riches. The citizens, touched by this display of generosity and fairness, couldn't believe their eyes. Van's words had weight, and he had proven that he intended to uphold the law to the fullest. In the days that followed, Van's special law became a sensation, surpassing even the self-governance law of the Baskerville Clan in terms of fame. It offered a clear and compelling message: obey the law, and you shall be rewarded. Disobey, and there will be consequences. The city began to transform as unlawful activities dwindled and crime rates plummeted. Van had made his mark, not through fear, but through principled leadership and unwavering commitment to justice. Back in his office, Van contemplated the aftermath of his audacious performance. Chihuahua, still in awe of what had transpired, expressed his admiration for Van's daring act. He confessed that, in his 2 decades of service, he had never been so moved. Van, however, knew that the challenges had only just begun. Retrieving the promised 100 billion gold coins would prove to be a monumental task. The city's illegal groups and potential hideouts were now on their radar, and Van intended to locate these pockets of crime and confiscate their ill-gotten gains. But Van's actions had also stirred the hornet's nest. The Youth Autonomy Association, a group with ties to the Manhwa clan and a history intertwined with the Baskerville family, had requested a meeting. Their discontent and intentions remained shrouded in mystery, but Van sensed that a confrontation was inevitable. In the opulent setting of a club within an underdog city hotel, the members of the Youth Autonomy Association gathered. In a dimly lit room, the atmosphere was tense as the 7 key members convened. These individuals, who represented the native Baskerville family, were known for their promiscuous social club. As they indulged in their festivities, their concerns about Van's new law loomed large. They believed it was time to address the issue head-on as the winds of change blew through the underdog city. The waiter entered the room with a hint of excitement in his voice, announcing the arrival of the girls. He ushered them in, and amongst the group was a man named Van. The ladies insisted that the waiter kick out this seemingly young interloper, mistaking him for a mere child. The waiter, perhaps a bit too confident, reached out and grabbed Van's hair. In the blink of an eye, Van reacted swiftly, wrenching his hand free from the waiter's grip and stepping forward. With an air of authority, he declared himself as the new deputy consul, Van Baskerville. This revelation left everyone in the room taken aback, their initial assumptions shattered. Conversation buzzed through the group as they contemplated a clever idea, making Van foot the entire bill for their gathering. However, Van had other plans. He slammed his hand onto the table, releasing a surge of mysterious power that shattered all the glasses, sending shards flying toward their faces. Shocked and unable to retaliate, they soon realized that Van was no ordinary guest. He was a formidable graduate of some unknown power. In a desperate bid to appease Van, one of the men spoke up, claiming they had only intended to test him as the vice-consul. They acknowledged his worthiness to lead them and pledged their allegiance. Van, though, wasn't easily swayed. He delivered a powerful punch to the man's stomach, sending him sprawling to the ground. With a fierce gaze, Van chastised the group, explaining that their apparent fearlessness stemmed from their wealth and influence. He warned them that they had yet to experience true terror. With a firm hand, he threw the man to the ground and demanded the others explain themselves. If they failed to provide a satisfactory answer, they would share the same fate. Fearful and intimidated, The group quickly conceded, assuring Van that they understood. However, Van wasn't satisfied with mere words. He informed them that they all deserved a good beating for their actions. As they began to gang up against him, Van moved with astonishing speed, positioning himself in front of them once more. In a stern tone, he accused them of kidnapping and slave trading, crimes that had earned his contempt for the Baskerville Clan. Their time for reckoning had come, and Van was determined to deliver the punishment they deserved. In a swift and powerful display of his abilities, Van took care of all of them simultaneously, ensuring that justice was served. In the dimly lit undergrounds of the underdog city, Van and his loyal companion, Chihuahua, stood side by side, their eyes fixed on a group of individuals that Van had recently captured, the sons of the powerful leaders ruling the underdog city, currently under the tight grip of the notorious Baskerville Clan. The air was tense with an impending confrontation as a yellow-haired noble approached, his eyes ablaze with anger and determination. "You'll pay for laying your hands on them," the yellow-haired noble hissed at Van, the threat hanging heavily in the air. His tone carried the weight of authority, a stark reminder of the power wielded by the leaders of the underdog city. The yellow-haired man warned Van that vengeance would be his once he escaped the confines of their current underground setting. Chihuahua, sensing the gravity of the situation, turned to Van with a furrowed brow. "What were you thinking, Sir Van, beating them so ruthlessly?" Chihuahua inquired. Concern etched across his face. Van, with a hint of nonchalance, asked Chihuahua if he thought he had gone too far. Chihuahua didn't hesitate to express his belief that Van should have shown more restraint, unable to fathom how Van had turned the noble's sons into what he described as meat pancakes. With a dismissive wave of his hand, Van assured Chihuahua that he had only just begun. He proceeded to enlighten Chihuahua about the corruption that had seeped into the leaders of the municipality. These leaders, originally tasked with preventing corruption and enhancing the lives of the people in the region, had instead succumbed to the allure of power, aiming to challenge even the mighty Baskerville clan. Van pointed to the defiant posture of the captive individuals as proof that they had not learned their lesson. Turning to the yellow-haired noble, Van delivered a chilling ultimatum. Come sunset, he planned to execute them all. The noble, visibly shaken, struggled to comprehend the severity of their predicament. "Every one of you will face justice," Van declared, the words echoing in the cavernous underground space. He promised to wipe out anyone connected to the captives, a determination that sent shivers down the spines of the assembled nobles. Chihuahua, caught between loyalty and concern, questioned the potential repercussions of Van's actions. "What about their clan leaders? Will they not retaliate?" he asked, worry etched on his face. Van, however, remained undeterred, asserting that their clans had no grounds for complaint. The reason? The captured individuals were deeply entwined with the criminal underworld of the underdog city, rendering their clans powerless to oppose Van's actions. As apologies and pleas for mercy filled the underground chamber, Chihuahua couldn't shake the concern gnawing at him. But will their clans truly stay silent? They may be cowardly and sly, but they can also be bold. They'll never support any business overseen by you, and revenge will find its way to us, he warned, looking to Van for reassurance. Van, however, remained resolute. "Don't worry, Chihuahua. These clans can't complain. The corruption runs deep, and tonight, justice will prevail," he declared, a glint of determination in his eyes. In the shadowy depths of the underdog city, Chihuahua confronted Van, questioning the validity of his claims. Did he possess any evidence to support the accusations he hurled at the captured individuals? Van, seemingly unperturbed, brushed off Chihuahua's concerns, assuring him that he had his own methods of dealing with such matters. Nonchalantly, he mentioned the possibility of fabricating evidence if needed, showing little regard for the consequences that might follow. It was a stark revelation of Van's pragmatic and ruthless approach to achieving his goals. Van's thoughts meandered beyond the current predicament. He spoke of an impending age of calamity, hinting at an uncertain future where he might be thrust into battle. Even if that scenario did not unfold, he mentioned plans to leave the underdog city and enroll in the academy, a decision that implied a significant shift in his life. Turning his attention back to the accused individuals, Van approached them with a list of great charges. Illegal kidnapping and human trafficking were just the tip of the iceberg. Bribery, threats, blackmail, and even assassinations of officials were part of their alleged crimes. The yellow-haired noble among them vehemently denied involvement in such activities, boldly stating that he would accept any punishment if tangible evidence was presented. Van, maintaining a stern demeanor, assured the noble that punishment would be meted out if evidence surfaced. However, he pointed out the irony in the noble's tone, suggesting a guilt that contradicted the absence of concrete evidence. The yellow-haired individual, caught off guard, struggled to formulate a response. Van's speculative insight delved deeper. He surmised that the accused individuals, perhaps motivated by a desire to protect their clan's reputation, were unwilling to divulge the truth, even in the face of potential death. Amidst the tension, a man addressed Van as Vice Consul Van, revealing that he had completed a task commissioned by Van. This unexpected development seemed to brighten Van's mood, and he commended the man for his timely accomplishment. As Van produced a set of tools, the man, intrigued by their unfamiliarity, inquired about their origin. Van casually explained that these tools were commonplace in his hometown, dismissing the mystery surrounding them. A touch of dark humor emerged when the man jokingly asked if Van hailed from hell, to which Van cheekily offered to teach him some new tricks. However, the man declined the offer, citing the potential for nausea, an indication that Van's methods and knowledge might be beyond the ordinary. Back inside, Van removed his coat, signaling a pivotal moment. With a sinister expression, he warned the captured individuals not to utter a word. Cut to the bustling streets of the city outside, where rumors spread like wildfire. Whispers of the 7 individuals, known for their opulent lifestyle and criminal exploits, being apprehended together created a buzz of speculation. The underdog citizens couldn't stop talking about it. The arrest of the prominent individuals had become the talk of the town. Opinions swirled, with some expressing skepticism about the likelihood of the detainees being released easily given the seemingly stern nature of the new vice consul. Others believed that, being the children of the native clan, the captives would face humiliation but ultimately be set free. There was also speculation that the weight of the law would come down on them, leading to potential execution. As the narrative unfolded, the clans extended a symbolic apology to the new vice consul, hoping to sway the decision in their favor. Local power players, in response to this gesture, began to relent. The prevailing expectation was that the locked-up individuals, often derogatorily referred to as trashes, would escape with nothing more than a scolding from their influential clan heads. That assumption shattered when the city square became the stage for a grim spectacle. 7 heads prominently displayed, each representing the ultimate consequence for the alleged crimes committed. The shock rippled through the populace as the notice above the severed heads detailed the crimes for which the execution had been carried out. The abrupt shift from anticipation of a mild reprimand to the stark reality of capital punishment left the people bewildered. Van, seemingly unfazed by the turn of events, explained to Chihuahua that such laws already existed. Though the execution of these high-profile native nobles was bound to leave an indelible mark, he predicted that, with his declaration of war, the clans would initiate a series of schemes. According to Van, the impending war of attrition would only conclude when one side emerged victorious, signaling the potential for a devastating bloodbath within the confines of the underground city. Addressing Chihuahua, Van warned him to brace himself, hinting that he would play a crucial role in the upcoming operation. Chihuahua, taken aback and struggling to make sense of the rapidly unfolding events, found himself thrust into a position of unforeseen significance. The scene shifted to the streets outside, where Chihuahua, now masked, approached Van with a hushed inquiry about the viability of the plan. In response, Van exuded confidence and urged Chihuahua to place trust in him. It was a difficult ask for Chihuahua, who couldn't fathom the unconventional strategy being employed by Master Van. The stakes were undeniably high, as Van decided to sell himself as a slave. In the forgotten city, nestled on the outskirts and far removed from the prying eyes of justice, a peculiar congregation of high-ranking carriages gathered near a sprawling tent erected in an isolated enclave. Today, however, was not a day of celebration or festivity for the common folk. Instead, it marked the commencement of an illicit and clandestine affair, an auction of the darkest kind. Within the confines of this makeshift arena, a disturbing spectacle unfolded. Kidnapped souls, ripped from their homes and spanning the spectrum from barbarians to nobles and commoners, were treated as mere chattel. The orchestrator of this macabre event, a masked joker, presided over the grim proceedings with an unsettling glee. Unbeknownst to the notorious Baskerville, a prominent figure in the city, the auction unfolded beyond the reach of his influence. The joker welcomed the gathering, his masked visage concealing the malevolence that lurked beneath. Amidst this shadowy assembly, a peculiar individual named Chihuahua approached the joker, revealing an affiliation with the Mablanc family. With a flourish, Chihuahua produced a letter declaring an intent to sell. Joker masked guy spots Van, who has long black hair and red eyes. He tells Chihuahua that he's brought a unique item and assures Chihuahua that it's valuable and will fetch a good price when sold. As the shadows lengthened, the tent beckoned, and the audience shifted their attention to the impending auction. A mysterious air enveloped the proceedings as the masked Joker introduced the first item, a demonic creature known as the Buffalo Murcielago. Rumored to have been filched from the knights of the Baskerville Clan, the creature boasted an A-rank designation and was said to possess an astonishing 19 hearts. The bidding commenced, starting at a modest 1 million gold. The atmosphere grew tense as bids soared, ultimately culminating in a jaw-dropping 250 million gold. The next spectacle unfolded with the introduction of a captive, a member of the battle tribe from the jungle of Le Rouge-le-Noir. A Balak barbarian stood on display, but to the surprise of the audience, no bids were cast. Even the Joker, with his malevolent grin, found himself taken aback. Swiftly, he commanded his underlings to remove the neglected captive and usher in the next item for auction. The Balak, however, harbored defiance. In a desperate attempt to resist the cruel fate that awaited her, she lashed out against her captors. A swift, brutal kick to her stomach subdued her, and she was unceremoniously whisked away to the dark recesses behind the scenes. The stage was now set for the grand reveal, the auction's piece de resistance. Enter Van Baskerville, the unsuspecting protagonist of this dark drama. With an air of quiet intensity, Van stood before the assembly, his long, flowing hair and piercing red eyes capturing the attention of the onlookers. The bidding began at a seemingly modest 6 million gold, but the fervor of the crowd propelled the figures into unimaginable heights, reaching an astronomical 6 billion gold. The collective gasp that swept through the crowd was palpable as an astronomical sum of gold was bid for the captive, and the identity of the bidder emerged. It was none other than Baron Gambino from the Granary territory. Whispers had circulated about the Baron's recent consolidation of underground funds, a swift rise in influence, and an undeniable display of financial might. The attendees were well aware that Gambino's decision to join the auction bore significance beyond the immediate transaction. Baron Butler, a voice of reason amid the unfolding chaos, questioned the Baron's apparent extravagance. In response, Gambino, with an air of calm assurance, detailed his strategy. He explained that possessing a slave of such allure would yield a higher price when sold in the capital, ensuring a lucrative return on the seemingly exorbitant investment. Baron Butler, however, harbored reservations about the staggering bid of 6 billion gold. Expressing concern, she ventured into a dialogue with Gambino. The Baron dismissed her apprehensions with a stern command to silence. He reminded Butler of her indebtedness, recounting how he had accepted her when she had nowhere else to turn. The admonition left Butler silenced and obedient, her loyalty reaffirmed in the face of her master's authority. With the deal sealed, Van, the unwitting protagonist, approached Baron Gambino. At close quarters, Gambino found himself pleasantly surprised by Van's striking appearance. Seizing the moment, Van requested the removal of his handcuffs. Before Gambino could respond, Van, with apparent ease, shattered the chains and cuffs that bound him. The spectacle unfolded with shocking fluidity, leaving both Baron and Butler wide-eyed and incredulous. Van's actions escalated when, with a forceful blow, he hit the ground, shattering the seats beneath the Baron. Gambino tumbled to the floor, caught off guard by the unexpected turn of events. A sinister smile played on Van's face as he stood over the fallen Baron. In a swift, decisive move, Van delivered a punch that rendered Baron Gambino unconscious. The butler, still grappling with disbelief, stared at the scene unfolding before her. The revelation of Van's true identity added an unforeseen layer of complexity to the already surreal sequence of events. The unveiling of Van as the mastermind behind this unexpected twist sent shockwaves through the audience. The underdog city's dark secrets continued to unravel in the most unexpected ways, leaving the spectators in a state of bewildered astonishment. Van, with a chilling smile, addressed the onlookers, forewarning them that the repercussions of this night would spare no one. In the dimly lit alley, the Joker-masked leader was taken aback as he caught sight of Van. Startled, he urgently signaled his cohorts to eliminate the threat, disregarding the fact that Van was unarmed. The group, driven by their leader's command, lunged at Van in unison. However, Van, undeterred by the odds, swiftly unleashed a weapon named Beelzebub, incapacitating the assailants with a single, calculated strike. The Joker-masked leader, wide-eyed and bewildered, witnessed Van's mastery over Aura, a power that surpassed his expectations. It became apparent that Van was not just an ordinary opponent. He was a graduator, a formidable force at such a young age. As the tension escalated, a burly adversary entered the fray, armed with chains that he skillfully hurled towards Van. To the surprise of onlookers, Van effortlessly sliced through the chains, swiftly neutralizing the muscular opponent. The Joker masked leader, now thoroughly shaken, struggled to comprehend the extent of Van's abilities. Chihuahua, observing the unfolding spectacle from the sidelines, couldn't conceal his astonishment. The entire scene was a revelation, challenging preconceived notions about Van's capabilities. Sensing his imminent defeat, the Joker masked leader resorted to desperate measures. He seized Chihuahua, using him as a hostage, and demanded Van's surrender. However, Chihuahua, displaying unwavering loyalty, urged Van not to capitulate, expressing a willingness to sacrifice himself rather than burden his superior. Van, moved by Chihuahua's steadfast loyalty, laughed heartily and reassured him. He then disclosed a trump card bestowed upon him by the patriarch when he departed the Baskerville estate, a flute secured to his leg. This revelation perplexed the Joker masked leader, who failed to grasp its significance. Unfazed, Van retrieved the flute and played a resonant melody, causing the surrounding audience to cover their ears in discomfort. The Joker masked leader dismissed it as a mere scare tactic, convinced that nothing significant had occurred. Yet at that very moment, an unseen assailant emerged behind him, swiftly eliminating the Joker masked leader. Chihuahua, witnessing the sudden turn of events, stood in shock. The unexpected assailant was a harbinger of a more formidable force, a group of cloaked figures, their eyes gleaming with intent to kill. The butler, surveying the unfolding chaos, recognized the symbol of teeth on the chests of these mysterious figures. Intrigued murmurs spread through the alley as the realization dawned upon the onlookers. These cloaked individuals were none other than the Annihilation Experts, the Empire's most ruthless Night Order. Every member of this order, 100 in total, bore the distinguished title of Graduator. In the midst of the tumultuous scene, it became evident that the formidable force entering the fray was none other than the Baskerville Clan's Pitbull Night Order. The air crackled with tension as a knight, stealthily positioned behind the butler, evoked fear in her. The prospect of meeting her demise in such a place seemed incomprehensible. However, just as the knight poised to strike, Van swiftly intervened, asserting authority over this particular knight and issuing orders for them to eliminate the others. Van's directives were explicit. Spare those who remained obediently grounded, but ruthlessly dispatch anyone daring to make a move. As the knight departed to execute Van's commands, Van reflected on the fact that Hugo, his father, had always been remarkably sensitive about military power. Van found solace in the smooth acquisition of control over the Pitbull Knights. Amid the chaos, another figure approached Van, addressing him as his nephew. Asked Van how it feels to use Pitbull Knights and if he's happy with it. Van says he's satisfied and calls the guy Uncle Boston Terrier. This inquisitive individual turned out to be Boston Terrier Le Baskerville, the commander of the Pitbull Knights. Seeing Van, Boston Terrier grasped why Hugo, Van's uncle, harbored such keen interest in him. Despite Van's evident fierceness and cruelty at the tender age of 15, Boston Terrier affectionately patted his nephew's head, extending an invitation to join the Pitbull Knights for proper guidance. Despite the inviting offer, Van politely alluded to an urgent matter that demanded his immediate attention, signaling his intention to depart. While Van's uncle found himself increasingly intrigued by Van's nonchalant demeanor, Van couldn't help but regard him as a tad bothersome. Exiting the main stage, Van navigated to the backstage of the auction, where an array of items up for bidding were stored. Amid the artifacts, his attention was drawn to a safe, leading him to speculate that it contained the funds paid to nobles, a safeguard for ensuring proper taxation by the city hall. Yet, amidst these considerations, a covered cage captured Van's curiosity. Van unveils the cage, and to his surprise, he discovers the Balak girl from the auction inside the cage.
Upon seeing the girl, Van states that she is lucky. Van then takes out a potion he received from the Night Order out of kindness. As Van gives her the potion to drink, the girl wakes up and is shocked to see Van in front of her. Van asks the girl why she is so surprised. Van, speaking in the girl's language, informs her to leave. The girl seems even more shocked to see Van. Van thinks to himself that before he was regressed, he had fought against the barbarians countless times, so he came to know the basics of their language. Van tells the girl in her language to run away. Hearing this, the girl starts to say something to Van in her language, but Van states that he is not fluent in the barbarian language. As the girl leaves, she says something to Van, and he thinks that she must be thanking him. Van then goes to find what he came for. He is able to locate an A+ level monster, Merciel. Beelzebub then appears, and Van tells Beelzebub that it has been a while since he feasted on an A-rank monster. Van tells Beelzebub to finish quickly, as the Pitbull order will arrive soon. The scene then shifts to the next day, where news of the new deputy consul destroying the criminal organization spreads instantly. As soon as the sun rises, rumors circulate that the nobles and other participants of the illegal auction were taken to the Underdog City prison. That same day, the entire club building is demolished by the Pitbull order. The 7 original clans, having lost their fortunes, send written protests to the administrative office. However, the reply is firm. The people taken down are only the beginning for criminals involved in the imperial family's illegal trading. Bank drafts, ledger books, and information about their cash transactions, all recorded by the 7 family members, were seized. The Baskerville clan is officially investigating this incident, and it will be reported to the imperial family. After that, the written protest from the 7 families stopped. Ultimately, the patriarchs of each of the 7 families personally came to the administrative office, creating an unprecedented situation where they had to ask for forgiveness from their enemy, who had dismantled their organization. However, Van's reply was simple. He stated that his team had already investigated all the black ledgers. In accordance with the Baskerville self-governing dominion, the 7 families' assets would be confiscated, and on the charge of treason, they would be punished severely. As a result, public officials and related subcontractors required additional manpower. This led to a decrease in unemployment rates in Underdog City. Due to the collapse of the illegal auction, there was a surge in tax revenue, and the welfare of Underdog City was restored. Van's stock price increased daily because of the citizens of Underdog City. In the office, Chihuahua brings Van coffee. Van tells Chihuahua that if he is the office manager, he should be diligent with his work and that there is no need to bring him coffee. Chihuahua informs Van that this is his way of thanking him, as Van saved Chihuahua from that clown. Van hands Chihuahua a document, telling him to look into it. Seeing the document, Chihuahua remarks that it hasn't been long since Van learned how to write, but he is already this proficient. Van replies that he is still far from catching up to Chihuahua. Reading the document, Chihuahua thinks that Van is an amazing person, able to create new laws from the words he learned and comprehend legal knowledge. If the deputy consul stays, Underdog City might develop even more. The scene shifts to night in a prison. Van apologizes to the girl, Wendy Rose, for not visiting her sooner, explaining that he has been very busy recently. Van asks Wendy her name, and she confirms it. Wendy then asks why Van let her live. Van informs her that he has some questions to ask. He removes her blindfold, and Wendy, frustrated, asks if that is the reason he has kept her alive. Van explains that Baron Gambino was able to increase his power so quickly because of her. After investigating, Van knows that Wendy's ability to earn money is impressive. Had Wendy been able to grow that talent outside the underworld family, she could have become a great merchant. Van promises Wendy that if she answers his questions, he will set her free. However, if she refuses, she will regret her actions as soon as today. Wendy tells Van that if it's something she can answer, she will. Hearing this, Van asks Wendy for her impression of him and whether she thinks he is enforcing the law well. Wendy responds that she thinks a reputable magistrate has honored the city with his presence. Van tells Wendy that if she doesn't reply seriously, he won't be able to uphold his promise. Wendy then tells Van that she thinks he is doing well. Hearing this, Van smiles, moves closer to Wendy, and asks her why she thinks that. Wendy is shocked upon hearing this. Van then states that she should tell him what he is doing wrong. Frustrated, Wendy explains that, historically, one of the main qualities considered important for a consul is virtue. While Van may create laws that address street crime and raise his dignity, many citizens will soon suffer from some of those laws. In the long term, this will lead to hatred and rage from the people. Additionally, the Baskervilles will not be so welcoming once Van gains more power than the clan leader in Underdog City. In the end, Van will be hated by the people and targeted by the Baskervilles as a threat. Van then asks Wendy what she thinks he should do from here on out. Wendy advises him to return all his authorities and the glory of the events that happened to the Baskerville clan, specifically to the clan leader. To avoid attracting further attention, she suggests that Van go to either the Loup Rouge et Loup Noir Mountain or the academy in the center of the empire. She suggests these places as they are where people of Van's age and status are common and can hide their powers and identities. When the time comes, the Baskerville clan leader will be the one who suffers in Van's stead. Hearing this, Van emits his aura, shocking Wendy. Van states that Wendy means she wants the hunting dog to bite his own owner's neck. Wendy responds that, as the hunting dog, that is the only way for Van to avoid being hated. Hearing this, Van tells Wendy he will keep that in mind, and that her advice is good and aligns closely with his own thoughts. As promised, Van sets Wendy free. Surprised, Wendy asks if he is really letting her go, and Van assures her that he always keeps his promises. As Wendy leaves, she states that she hopes the day Van regrets what happened today never comes. Van then asks Wendy if she knows of the clan called the Mesima Dinaro. Wendy is shocked to hear this. Van explains that there are more than the well-known 7 clans among the founding clans of Underdog City. There was a prosperous merchant clan, the 8th clan, the Mesima Dinaro clan. However, this clan met its end due to an unfortunate event. It was the youngest son of the Mesima Dinaro who caused their downfall. During a birthday celebration, the boy was showing off his newly learned sword skills. As the demonstration began, the people of Baskerville were stunned. The sword skills the young child exhibited were none other than the secret Baskerville sword technique, known only to members of the Baskerville family. News of this reached the leader of the Baskerville clan, who determined that top military information had leaked. In response, the Baskerville clan released the hunting dogs to take down the Mesima Dinaro clan. However, there was someone pulling the strings behind the scenes. The young demons of the 7 clans had stolen the sword techniques from the Baskerville clan and allowed the young child of the Mesima Dinaro clan to learn them. Surprised, Wendy asks Van what the story of the 8th clan has to do with her. Van states that, in reality, there was a survivor from the Mesima Dinaro clan. The 7 fools managed to sneak out a girl, who then suffered through cruelties and acts too foul for Van to even describe. Wendy, distressed, tells Van that she doesn't want to hear more. However, Van states that there is more to this story. Over time, a new deputy consul was appointed to the city. This deputy consul managed to unearth the city's old problems and punish those responsible. The catalyst for everything was the 7 individuals. The newly appointed deputy consul ensured that they were thoroughly punished and made them admit their crimes before their end. It was during their final moments that they said, "I'm sorry for committing such a heinous crime," they say. Upon hearing this, Wendy is angered and asks Van who they are apologizing to. Van tells Wendy that it is none other than the girl using the alias Wendy, the sole survivor of the Mesima Dinaro clan. Wendy is visibly moved to tears. She asks Van how she is supposed to believe Van's account, how she can trust that Van captured them, and how she is expected to believe their apologies. Van suggests that the easiest way for Wendy to believe is to see it with her own eyes. He shows her how the 7 families apologized and inscribed their remorse on the walls. Wendy is shocked to see this. Van further explains that even though the 7 original clans have been taken down, the Mesima Dinaro clan's vengeance is still ongoing, with one more clan left to deal with, the Baskervilles. Wendy asks Van why he's helping her, given that he's part of the Baskerville clan. Van responds that it's the wrong question. Wendy understands what Van is trying to convey. As she leaves, Wendy promises to repay this debt. She vows that whatever Van decides to do with his life, she will ensure he never has to worry about money again. Hearing this, Van promises to remember her words. The scene shifts to the next day when Chihuahua enters Van's room and is shocked to find 2 men subdued there. As Van wakes up, Chihuahua asks him what happened. Van explains that he's not sure, but it appears he took down these intruders in his sleep. As they walk outside, Chihuahua is surprised and asks if this is true. Van reassures him it's a joke, but acknowledges there have been many recent inconveniences. He mentions encountering 2 poison arrows, consuming poison drinks 4 times, snipers, almost being run over by a cart, and other events. Many things have been happening. Van wonders if this means that Van has gathered some attention. Chihuahua states that Van seems to have gone insane. Van thinks to himself that the skill he acquired from the hellish buffalo with an A risk rating is better than he thought. Thanks to the river Styx and tough life enhancing his body, not even a graduator-class assassin could pierce his skin. However, since it's starting to become annoying, Van decides that he needs to look into it. Chihuahua is happy to hear this. At that moment, Van sees a carriage from the Baskerville clan, assuming they were sent by the main family. And then we see that it's the head butler, John Barrymore. As John greets Van, Van remarks that John is looking much better now. Hearing this, John smiles and states that Van is doing well since he left the main residence. Van modestly responds that he was just lucky. Chihuahua, surprised, thinks about John Barrymore, the best head butler of the Barrymore family, which has fulfilled the head butler position for 4 generations, serving in the infamously formidable Baskerville family. Chihuahua is excited to meet this role model of butlers. Van then speculates that John coming all the way here must mean something important. John confirms that the patriarch has praised Van's progress and ordered him to return to the main residence. He adds that the patriarch seemed very happy about it. Van finds it hard to believe that Hugo would be happy. Then we see where Hugo received the report of Van becoming the most beloved figure in Underdog City. Additionally, the deputy consul has won first place for being the most trusted among merchants and also first place for being the most loved by children, scholars, and farmers, as well as being the most targeted by assassins. Hugo tells Van that the Baskervilles are only good at using weapons and not their brains. But with this, they are able to shed that image. Hugo informs Van that he did well. Van replies that he simply did what he was supposed to do. He wonders to himself if that is supposed to be Hugo's happy face. Hugo then explains that one must reward and punish according to the situation, and this year, Van will be going to the academy. Van thinks to himself that this is as he expected. The best academy, Colosio, where the empire's elites gather. It's attended by the children of aristocracy and royal families, and for security reasons, students are required to reside in dormitories. Van sees this as an opportunity to grow stronger while avoiding Hugo's attention. Hugo mentions his plan to send Van and a few others with him to the academy, but he hasn't chosen who yet. He asks Van if he happens to have any siblings he would like to attend with. Van tells Hugo that he is closest to the Burrow brothers. Hearing this, Hugo decides to send those 3 with Van to the academy. Hugo then asks Van if he recalls the plan they made when he was 8 years old, during the joint training with the Morgs. The plan was to lend the ruby mines to the Morg family and use them to eliminate the barbarians. Hugo informs Van that the plan worked, and he further states that the Morgs suggested a joint raid, showing great humility about it. He suggests that Van go on a territory inspection before entering the academy to ensure the laws he altered are being upheld, which will also be a valuable experience. Van agrees to follow Hugo's orders. The scene shifts to the next day, where Van leaves Underdog City. Chihuahua bids him to take care of himself and assures Van that he will manage the administrative work in his absence. Van thinks to himself that he will soon be parting ways with Secretary General Chihuahua. As Van moves forward, he anticipates that they may reveal themselves. Indeed, the Pitbull Order steps forward. Van apologizes to their leader for making them wait, explaining that he didn't want the departure to be disorderly. Stafford, the Pitbull Order leader, reassures Van that it's okay and they will ensure his safe transport to the Morg's juvenile fortress. Van then asks Stafford about Uncle Boston Terrier's well-being. Stafford replies that the Count is the same as ever, and after the auction incident, he has been insistent on admitting Van to the Pitbull Order. Van thought to himself that Uncle Boston Terrier makes him feel uncomfortable. As they reach the mountains, Van asks Stafford if this is the region that the Baskervilles lent to the Morgs. He comments to Stafford that it doesn't appear that anyone is really breaking any laws here. Stafford explains that the envoy team was officially sent for a territory inspection, but Van interjects, stating that he knows it's actually to deal with the barbarians. Stafford informs Van that, from what he heard, the Morgs have assembled a group consisting of 3 delegates, 30 lower house parliament members, and around 100 mages who are not legislative members. Van remarks that the Morg family seems to be taking this matter very seriously. In contrast, the Baskervilles only brought a dozen knights and Stafford himself, a member of the lower house parliament. The elites are on standby on the other side of the mountain range. Van thinks to himself that it's not a bad idea, as Hugo said, to investigate the barbarians' lifestyle. At that moment, 3 girls step forward, declaring that no one can pass without their permission. Seeing them, Van recalls these girls, the Morg's 3 flowers, the triplets Hysis, Middlesis, and Losis, each of them remarkable. And so it is said that when they are together, their incredibility reaches the sky. Van informs the girls that they are the envoy team from the Baskervilles and have come to inspect the territory and improve friendly relations. He requests them to open the gates. The trio responds that they cannot open the gate immediately. They need to report to the person in charge, so the Baskerville envoy team must wait. They promise a reply by tomorrow. Van challenges their authority, questioning why they have the right to stop him from entering his own land. The trio retorts, asking if Van is looking down on them because they pay rent here, citing the tenant protection law, which they claim is Van's family law. Van informs them that he has made changes to that law, allowing him to evict tenants he dislikes. With a serious expression, Van demands one last time for them to open the gates. The trio is shocked and frustrated. One of the girls casts a spell, throwing water at Van. They assert that if they say someone must wait, then that person will wait, as no one can enter Morg's land without permission. Stafford tells Van that it seems this cannot be resolved with words. At that moment, the Burrow brothers step forward from behind and comment on the absurdity coming from girls who don't even know their place. Frustrated, the Morg's trio tells the Burrow brothers to stop talking nonsense, dismissing them as mere underlings. The Burrow brothers step closer and declare that Van is the symbol of the Baskervilles. They tell Van to leave the Morg's sisters to them. Van becomes annoyed to see the Burrow brothers behaving this way. The Burrow brothers inform Van that they will repay him for recommending them to the academy, and they instruct Van to leave this situation to them. Hearing this, Van realizes that this is related to the academy, where the Burrow brothers aim to become great soldiers in the future. Though not particularly clever, they can follow orders well, and if Van trains them, they could prove to be useful. With a smile, Van expresses his trust in the Burrow brothers. The Morg's sisters scoff, calling those who only know how to stick together idiots. In response, the Burrow brothers retort that the Morg's sisters are the true idiots. Frustrated, the Morg's sisters prepare to attack the Burrow brothers. Seeing this, Van recalls that before his regression, the Morg's sisters were renowned mages with mastery over the three attributes: water, earth, and nature. The synergy of these magic types greatly enhances their effects, earning them the title of Morg's Three Flowers. The Morg's sisters create tree branches to block the Baskerville team from entering the gates and challenge the Burrow brothers to show what they can do. The Burrow brothers state that these are just tree branches. One of them swiftly employs the first Baskerville technique, slicing through the branches instantly. Seeing this, Stafford praises the perfect execution of the technique. However, a branch manages to strike one of the Burrow brothers from behind, though he blocks it in time. Observing this, one of the Morg's sisters remarks that the Baskervilles will never reach them. In response, the Burrow brothers grow angered and charge at the Morg's sister with full force. As their battle unfolds, Stafford remarks to Van that it's enjoyable to watch. Van asks what is, and Stafford explains that the clash between magic and swordsmanship, and which is stronger, has long been debated. Magic utilizes mana around the user to amplify elemental power, while swordsmanship uses both internal mana and energy for sustained explosive power. This conflict between mages and swordsmen will shape the future. Stafford adds that it's fascinating to observe their potential and talent. Van agrees, saying that if Stafford puts it that way, then he is invested in the outcome as well. Stafford tells Van that he has already surpassed their age. Van responds that this is wasting time. He needs to proceed quickly. Despite recently finding a supervisor, there is a mountain of work to tackle. Suddenly, a fireball streaks towards the triplets in combat, striking them directly. The Burrow brothers manage to dodge the attack, but the Morg's sisters barely evade it. Descending from above, Camus Morg intervenes, stating she cannot tolerate disturbances in the territory under her management. The Morg's sisters explain they were trying to prevent invaders from crossing the gate. Angered, Camus insists the Morg's sisters address her formally and not informally. They apologize and refer to Camus as the head of aviary. Camus then turns to Van, warmly greeting him, acknowledging it has been 7 years since they last met. Van agrees, reflecting that Camus seems to have outgrown her baby face and looks more mature now. Impressed by Camus's demeanor, the Burrow brothers watch closely. Van requests Camus to open the gate. as words alone are ineffective against the Morgue sisters. Frustrated, Camus tells Van that it's been a while since they last met, but is disappointed that it's the only thing he has to say. Van asks Camus what else he should say instead. Seeing this, Stafford wonders if the next conflict will be between the geniuses of the two clans, following on from the triplets' altercation. Camus then tells Van that he scores 0 points and asks him about his attitude towards his future wife. Everyone is surprised to hear this. As they enter, Camus tells Van that it seems like the Baskerville clan doesn't know much about the barbarians. Van informs Camus that they do, as the Baskervilles frequently engage with them and know more than the Morgue clan does. Camus asks Van why he sent those idiots then. Van explains that it was agreed with the Morgue clan that the main force would be on the other side of the mountain range, so there was no need to ask when Camus already knew. Camus tells Van that she thought he didn't know that. Van informs Camus that he is the person in charge of the delegation, so of course he would know. Hearing this, Camus states that Van might be someone whom the clan wanted to discard, but it seems like he is quite trusted within the clan. Camus further mentions the most annoying issue among the barbaric tribes: the warrior tribe Balak and the sorcerer tribe Rococo. The strength of Balak's archery, in particular, is on a completely different level compared to the Empire, and this principle isn't well known either. Since Van is well informed about the ecology of the barbaric tribes, Camus will give Van 8 points. 8 out of 100, of course. Van tells Camus that he appreciates her compliment, but questions the scoring system. Camus explains that it's based on her personal preferences. She dislikes overly smart men and finds them more interesting when they're a bit foolish. She rates Van's horseback riding at 6 points, questioning if it's because he looks small on the horse, and gives his fashion a mere 4 points, finding his clothes dull. She praises Van's appearance at 99 points, noting his good growth, but deducts a point for his poor control over facial expressions. Van asks Camus to stop the pointless evaluation. Camus counters, asking why it's pointless when she needs to be stern with her future husband. Van questions why he's considered her future husband, to which Camus reminds him of passing her uncle's test years ago. Van recalls the incident and realizes Camus is referring to it. Frustrated, Camus criticizes her uncle's judgment for obstructing her path to marriage based on such a trivial test. Despite her dislike for the situation, she acknowledges the promise made and resolves to follow through with it. Hearing this, Van admires Camus's skill as a mage. He assures Camus that he has forgotten about what happened that day and intends to ensure it never affects them. Camus responds by throwing a shirt at Van, questioning how he can reverse something that has already occurred. Asserting her own genius, Camus explains that once she witnesses something, she never forgets. Van wonders why Camus threw the shirt at him until he recognizes it as the shirt he gave her after saving her. Camus blushes slightly as Van privately wonders if she returned the shirt unwashed. Changing the subject, Camus informs Van that barbarians have ambushed the ruby mine, possibly pillaging its resources. She shows Van a wall constructed over a month by earth and iron mages. Impressed, Van acknowledges the Morgue mage's efficiency, noting that it would have taken several hundred regular workers a year to achieve the same. Camus beams at the compliment. Van then notices traces and asks if they are from arrows shot by the Balaks. Camus confirms this, explaining that the arrows were infused with strong aura, which resulted in numerous casualties among the guards during the night. Since they can break through walls that are 2 to 3 meters thick, their talent is unmatched. Due to the arrows that pierce through magical shields, Camus's uncle suffered a severe chest injury, though thankfully he survived despite his wounded pride. Van recalls that the patriarch mentioned undergoing a similar experience, where his nose bridge was injured. It appears there is a talented individual among the barbarians, and Van asks Camus who it might be. Camus speculates it could be a female, judging by their habit of painting their faces black, which obscures their physical traits. At that moment, a soldier enters urgently, informing Camus that she is needed immediately because members of the barbarian tribe have been captured by the search party. As they enter the tent, Van informs Camus that the captive is from the Rococo sorcerer tribe. Camus asks if they have extracted any information from him. The soldier replies that the captive refuses to talk at all. Camus suggests using psychic magic, but the soldier explains that strong sorcery prevents them from reading his mind. Camus then questions the captive about the recent ambush on the Morgue clan fortress and asks how many people they kidnapped. Among the victims was a daughter of the Morgues named Rose, who was Camus's sixth cousin. Camus urgently asks the captive about Rose's whereabouts in his language, but he responds in his own tongue. Camus then inquires about the barbarian, who was with the Morgues during the attack. The soldier reports that all were incapacitated during the ambush, and the barbarian was taken away. Camus concludes that there is currently no one present who can translate the captive's words. The soldier confirms this, and Van steps forward, revealing he knows a bit of the Rococo language. Camus questions Van's abilities, to which he admits he's not fluent, only familiar with basic vocabulary. Camus requests Van to ask the captive about her cousin's location. Van speaks to the captive, who smirks and responds. Van informs Camus that her cousin has passed away. Camus, angered by the news, declares that the senator of the audience hall is currently being treated and the senator of the temple is on the opposite side of the territory for an inspection. Thus, the decision falls to her, a member of the middle family and the vice head of the fortress. Without hesitation, Camus swiftly takes down the barbarian on the spot. Camus instructs Van to accompany her out of the tent. As they leave, Van observes Camus crying and reflects that despite her tough exterior, she is still only 15 years old. Then, with determination, Camus declares that now is not the time for mourning. She must quickly compose herself and seek revenge. Seeing this, Van thinks to himself that Camus is as resolute as expected. Suddenly, Van hears a bell and asks Camus about the sound. Camus explains that it signals a barbarian attack. Van remarks that her moment for revenge has arrived swiftly. The scene shifts outside, where a few barbarians are visible. One of them fires mana arrows, easily breaking through the wall. She commands the other barbarians to attack. Van, on the scene, wonders if he arrived too quickly. Two of the girls use their lasso ropes to grab Van, thinking their husband hunting is going well. Hearing this, Van realizes they intend to breed a superior race by capturing suitors. He pushes the girls away using the ropes. In that moment, other barbarians shoot arrows at Van. Van recalls Hugo's instructions not to initiate a battle before meeting up with the main force. He wonders if he should wait for them instead. Van used his aura to deflect all the arrows with a single strike. At that moment, Camus stepped forward, questioning why Van wasn't attacking the barbarians. She then used her fire spell to swiftly incapacitate the barbarians in front of them. Van couldn't believe Camus would use her magic so recklessly. Camus asked Van about his use of liquid aura, which indicated his graduation, and expressed that Van was the only man she could acknowledge. Van explained that he had received orders from the Patriarch to avoid battles until regrouping with the main force. Camus reassured Van that she would handle the barbarians herself and avenge her cousin. However, in that instant, a barbarian shot a dart at Camus, paralyzing her and causing her to fall to the ground. The barbarian then attempted to restrain Camus with a rope, but Van intercepted it. He urged Camus to retreat, but she worried about the farmlands and captives. Van insisted they wait for the main Baskerville force before engaging in any battles. Camus disagreed, adamant about avenging her cousin who had been taken by the barbarians. Van implored Camus to make a rational decision in the heat of the moment. At that moment, an arrow came from behind directly at Van, but he quickly dodged it. Surprised, Van thought about the destructive power Camus had mentioned. Suddenly, a barbarian grabbed Camus and began to run away. Frustrated, Van wondered if this was how things were going to turn out. In the past, when Camus Morgue was still an adolescent, there was a time when she had been held captive. However, it wasn't long before Camus returned after defeating all the barbarians, earning her the title of the Queen of Le Rouge et Le Noir. Despite thinking he should do what was necessary, Van faced a barbarian girl who attacked him with a bow. Van dodged her strike, but was surprised by her attack method. The girl kicked Van and pushed him back. Observing her movements, Van realized he needed to go all out. The girl warned Van they would meet again soon. Van recognized her from the auction house and accused her of repaying his kindness with revenge. The girl clarified she sought revenge for her captive and stated Morgue had nothing to do with Van. The girl mounted her ride, telling Van that she was repaying what she had received. The barbarians took the girl, not Van, and informed him that if he wanted to save her, he should follow them. Van then saw Camus's uncle running there with his forces. He wondered if he needed to reveal his power here. Seeing Adolf Morg, Camus's uncle, Van pondered whether Adolf had come after hearing about the ambush. Adolf cast a spell that broke the ground, but the barbarians managed to escape. Adolf was shocked by this. Van was surprised that the Balak had finished their ambush only 3 minutes after the warning bell rang. The situation escalated due to Camus's carelessness and lack of practical experience overlapping with it. A soldier informed Adolf that he believed the barbarians had fled to the restricted area at Le Rouge et Le Noir Mountain. Hearing this, Adolf thought that the restricted area was undiscovered and dangerous, and heading there at night would be too risky. Adolf was concerned that his niece had been captured, but Van assured him they could still pursue them, as he had traversed the dense forest in his childhood. Before Van regressed, thanks to the recon and subjugation experiences, Van had traversed most of the dense forest. Hearing this, Adolf asked Van if he was serious about this. A soldier informed Adolf that the mission to the Le Rouge et Le Noir Mountains was challenging. Adolf assured those who hesitated that opting out was acceptable, as he wouldn't hold it against them later. Adolf thought to himself that he already knew Van was extraordinary and had no choice but to rely on him. Adolf entrusted Van with the task of saving his niece. The dense forest of Le Rouge et Le Noir Mountain lay within Baskerville territory, teeming with deadly mosquitoes, silent spiders, and other dangerous creatures. An ordinary person wouldn't survive there for even an hour. The scene shifted to the forest, where everyone, including the main force of Baskerville, was navigating through the dense terrain. Adolf was shocked to see Van's speed and asked Stafford if all boys from the Baskerville clan were like that. Stafford reassured Adolf that Van was special. Van swiftly dispatched insects with a single strike while running, impressing the trio. Finally, Van reached the camp of the barbarians, and Van instructed everyone to halt, noting that the barbarians hadn't managed to escape far. Van informed Adolf of a rumor that Balak hunters scattered dry leaves to listen for the sounds of their pursuers, advising increased caution from this point onward. Adolf cast a silence spell on Van to prevent him from making noise as they moved forward. Adolf reassured Van to let him handle things from here, expressing his determination to never forget this alliance by marriage. Van was slightly surprised by Adolf's statement. Meanwhile, at the barbarians' camp, Camus, angered, threatened to take down everyone once she got free. However, the barbarians ignored Camus completely. Camus wondered if the barbarians' motive for ambushing the Morgs involved their talk of husband and wife hunting earlier. At that moment, a man named a Hun entered and insisted on disciplining the captives. The girl Van had saved, named Ian, stepped forward and told a Hun to stay away from the girl. A Hun claimed credit for capturing the girl, but Ian countered that if she hadn't shot the arrow and stopped the boy, a Hun wouldn't have been able to take her away. Seeing them arguing, Camus wondered if an internal dispute had broken out. She speculated that this girl named Ian must be the commander, surprised that Ian possessed the skill to challenge Van, who was a low-ranking graduator. If Camus wanted to escape, she needed to do something about Ian. A Hun continued arguing with Ian, but when Ian, angered with a serious face, told him to stop talking nonsense or she would take him down right there and then, he backed away scared and frustratedly left. Camus observed that Ian seemed to have won the argument. Then Ian kicked Camus, stating that she had once been captured by the Morgs clan but was fortunate to receive some kindness and managed to escape. She warned Camus that she wouldn't be as lucky. Suddenly, an explosion erupted behind Ian, shocking her as she realized they were under ambush. Adolf stepped forward, declaring his intent to take down all the barbarians and rescue Camus. Camus was relieved to see her uncle arrive. Then, as the Morg and Baskerville forces struck at the barbarians and took them down, Van sensed something strange. Why were the barbarians who had ambushed the Morg so systematically now so flustered? The barbarians, surprised, couldn't believe that the Morg forces would cause such an uproar within the forest in the middle of the night. Seeing the barbarians attempting to run away, Adolf ordered his forces not to let any of them escape. Camus was relieved to see this. At that moment, someone approached Camus from behind, startling her. It turned out to be Van, who gestured for her to keep quiet. As Van released Camus, she joyfully asked if he had come to save her. Frustrated, Van reminded Camus about the gesture for silence. Just then, Ian arrived and remarked on Van's skill with knives. She knew Van would come due to his strong physique, which allowed him to cover long distances quickly, and his level-headedness that helped him navigate the darkness of the forest. Ian stated that Van had passed, although Van didn't understand what he had supposedly passed. Both Ian and Camus looked at each other angrily. Van thought to himself that it was too difficult to hide his abilities in this situation. He couldn't recall anyone like Ian from his previous life, and wondered if she was the one who scarred Hugo's nose bridge, the Balak Archer, Night Fox. However, Van considered Ian too young and somewhat unskilled to be that person, or perhaps she was from the same bloodline as Night Fox. At that moment, someone shot a dart, but Van swiftly blocked it, surprising a Hun. Van then picked up Camus, realizing the situation had become troublesome. He reassured Camus, telling her to bear with him briefly as he took her to Camus's uncle. Camus blushed and agreed as Van departed. Meanwhile, Ian wished Van had come with her obediently. Van asked Camus if she was severely poisoned, to which Camus confirmed yes. Arrows from the barbarians began raining down on Van, but he skillfully deflected them. Suddenly, Ian shot an arrow filled with aura at Van, aiming to incapacitate Camus. The arrow was about to hit Camus when Adolf intervened, using his ice spell to stop it in its tracks. Adolf then used his magic to heal Camus from the numbing poison, explaining that it was severe and challenging to completely remove. So, when they return, they should visit the divine Quo Vadis. Camus then asks her uncle Adolf to let her go for a moment. She embraces Van gratefully for saving her. Adolf tells Camus that he also did his best. Frustrated, Camus asks Adolf why he only arrived now and insists she will tell everything to her mother. At that moment, Ian grabs Van with a lasso rope and begins to pull, but she is surprised to find Van not budging an inch. He is too strong. Ian tells Van that she will try her best if he obediently allows himself to be captured, as they are running out of time. Van easily breaks free from the rope and starts to wonder why these barbarians are in such a rush. Is there something he doesn't know? Suddenly, something stirs, causing all the birds to flee in the opposite direction. Ian, scared, wonders if they have been noticed. Van is also surprised as a hidden Beelzebub within his arteries warns him intensely that something is approaching. Terrified, Ian exclaims that Madame Eightlegs is coming. All the barbarians are shocked to see Madame Eightlegs approaching. Camus wonders what that pillar is. It becomes clear, it's a monster. Van is shocked to see the monster. Adolf can't believe such a creature exists in the forest. Van reflects on the unlikely encounter with Madame Eightlegs, a legendary S-rank monster. He quickly stops Camus from making any loud noises, cautioning that while the monster has poor sight, it possesses sensitive touch and hearing. Van recalls an old native's warnings from before his regression, tales of horrors at the Loup Rouge et Loup Noir Mountain, a legend about Madame Eightlegs dwelling deep within the forest. In the Empire's revised monster dictionary lies records of Madame Eightlegs, classified as an S-rank threat capable of devastating a nation in a day, a true disaster. Madame Eightlegs then shoots poison at everyone. Van and Adolf manage to dodge and block the poison, though one of the barbarians' hair is tainted by it. Ian swiftly cuts off the affected hair, admonishing the barbarian not to scream in front of Madame. Madame Eightlegs warns Ian that if she weren't the shaman's grandchild, she would have killed them. Afterward, Ian orders the barbarians to retreat. Then Adolf orders his forces to retreat as well. Amidst the Balaks scattering in smaller groups and the Baskervilles and Morgs retreating together, there's a subtle difference in their withdrawal that catches Madame Eightlegs' attention. She decides to pursue Van and Adolf's forces. One of the magicians steps forward, suggesting Adolf leave dealing with the monster to him, citing its weakness to fire attacks. The soldier launches a fiery spell at Madame, hopeful that it would work, but to their dismay, Madame swiftly incapacitates them with a single strike. Adolf is stunned by the monster's power. Van makes a decision. He turns back abruptly, surprising Stafford. When asked what he's doing, Van explains that if they continue like this, they'll be overpowered, and someone needs to immobilize the monster. Stafford volunteers to stay behind, asserting his ability to restrain the creature's legs. Van emphasizes the urgency of not bringing Madam into their territory. Seeing Van take charge shocks everyone, especially Camus. Van informs Adolf that time is of the essence and defers the decision to him. Then Adolf commands everyone to keep running, emphasizing that they can't let Van's efforts go to waste. Camus insists that Adolf stop, but he firmly instructs her to keep moving. Meanwhile, Van reflects to himself that he has no interest in the destruction of the Baskerville territory. Moreover, he knows that the Allied forces stand little chance against the growing threat of Madame Eightlegs. However, this dire situation presents a strategic opportunity for Van. If he can fake his own death, he could escape Hugo's surveillance and buy valuable time to master the 10th technique that occupies his thoughts. Van believes that once he perfects this skill and learns to conceal it effectively, he will return to the clan. Now, facing the imminent danger of Madame Eightlegs drawing near, Van resolves to utilize every ounce of his strength. This includes the substantial mana received from the River Styx's blessing, his worldly aura tailored for high-ranking Baskerville swordsmanship techniques, and the demonic sword Beelzebub. Van intends to unleash everything at his disposal in a direct assault against Madame Eightlegs. Then Van dashes forward towards Madame Eightlegs at incredible speed, aiming to strike it head-on. He jumps directly in front of Madame and delivers a powerful blow using his Baskerville 5th technique. The impact causes a massive explosion, leaving Adolf and Stafford shocked by the display of power. Camus, however, can't believe that Van would sacrifice himself to save everyone. Camus couldn't help and shouts Van's name as they leave from the forest.